kina kite pai atia. Uia mai o korowai aroha. He tonga ma mātou. Ka puta ki te wai ao, ki te ao marama. Humie, huie, tai kie. Wonderful. And a warm, I don't need that. Warm welcome to all our guests in the room. Apologies, we do have an apology from Councillor Kate. Any other apologies? I might be a late from Councillor Philippa. She's probably still on her way. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Glenda. Seconded by Charlie. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Any declarations of interest? No? Wonderful. Then we move to our first item. So we welcome Barbara Gray. Yeah, if you come up to the presenters table, and you can bring someone up there with you if you want to have someone next to you. Yeah. Thank you, Charlie. Barbara, as we've spoken already, there's a full 10 minutes, 5 minutes to speak and 5 minutes for questions. If your speech goes a little bit over the 5, that's all right. But we are limiting this whole process to 10 full minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. I represent 58 residents on Papaiti and Waireka roads, a rural area with 63 households. I attended a meeting with Ms O'Hagan and Mr Langford on the 23rd of July to discuss the continued dissatisfaction the large majority of residents on our roads feel about being included in a KSR scheme designed for urban residents without having been consulted or notified prior to the bin delivery in late May. This made us miss the crucial cut-off for LTP submissions, so we were unable to get any submissions into Council prior to the motion which Mr Langford engineered and handed to Councillor Robb to put forward during the June the 7th Council meeting that subsequently passed. The KSR service collection area remain as written into the contract. At our meeting, Mr Langford said that the decision to include the additional rural areas into KSR could not now be reversed by him or at this meeting. It is a matter to be decided by a new resolution of elected council. When questioned, he blamed elected members entirely for the decision to include additional rural areas into KSR, despite evidence showing that they were not made aware that some rural households were added to the specified urban coverage area. They were criticised for not locating a copy of the contract and reading it prior to voting, stating it was their responsibility to do so, despite the fact the motion was introduced at that meeting and not prior. In response to my request for information, the Council's lawyer has stated that exact details of which properties were included were not shared with elected members. They were provided with property totals only. The information supplied to me was so vague or non-existent that I understand why elected members were left in the dark about our inclusion. The whole process around inclusion of rural households to KSR has not been clear or transparent to any of us. Mr Langford acknowledged to us that the consultation process for KSR was flawed regarding rural add-ons. Consultation was very clear. Only urban areas and the 3 villages were to be included, so that was what was consulted on, not the inclusion of rural areas too. Rural areas had been specifically excluded. Ms O'Hagan told those of us present that there was no definition for urban, so there was no clear line between urban and rural areas. The Wanganui District Plan Zone definitions clearly identify rural zones using the word rural, leaving the general residential zone as the obvious urban high-density housing area. The Oxford Dictionary definition of urban is non-rural. Its opposite is rural. We believe Ms O'Hagan is deliberately trying to suggest that rural areas can be urban, so legitimising the inclusion of the additional rural areas into the urban collection area. this is what we're up against. Our rural areas were never intended to be included in the KSR scheme according to all the council information that explicitly excluded rural areas since KSR discussions began. As affected residents, we were never consulted or notified of our inclusion and remained in the dark until the bins arrived. Since then, we have been pleading with the council to let us out of the scheme until we've had the opportunity to take part in a full consultation, as is our right and council's obligation under the LGA. So, in order to regain the trust and cooperation of the affected rural residents, rural inclusion into the scheme must be revoked and a new set of consultation options developed for rural zones to achieve affordable, sustainable rural recycling that meets waste minimisation goals. If residents do not buy into council schemes or they're forced to do so, they will never succeed. Curbside recycling is simply one tool of many available for achieving waste minimisation. The current recycling centre fulfils the needs of a large majority of rural users without the unsustainable cost to targeted ratepayers. Curbside food scrap collection planned to start next year is not required in rural areas and should not be imposed on us. Already we compost and most rural properties have pigs, poultry, etc. that consume any leftover food waste. Therefore, we ask you, our council, to right this wrong. After all, it's the putting right that counts. Meanwhile, we'll continue to fight for our rights and we'll carry on recycling as we've always done through the recycling centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And I also know that you're presenting the petition from your community to us as well, of which we all have a copy of in our papers.
Yep.
So this has been well and truly question and campaign by us all, but do we have the odd question? Councillor Vincent.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. I'm pretty aware of the traffic issues up in your particular area, but perhaps you could tell us what your concerns are around the speed of the traffic on Papeete Road in terms of a recycling vehicle having to operate under those conditions.
We've got big ditches on not on the river side of the road. On the other side of the road, there's a walkway. So, and we do have a lot of trucks and that go up that road. We've got a problem that the bins are black. We don't have street lighting. Because they have to be out at 7 a.m. in the morning, a lot of people put them out at night. Not that there are a lot of people using the service right now, but that's a real concern. And the trucks and that go through do go at 80 k per hour, most of them do. So I think when you put another big truck on that road and you're trying to get around with a car, Waireka Road's even worse than ours. They've got really, really deep ditches, and if you move off the road, you'll be in a ditch. So there's very little passing ability there as well. So if a truck's stopped there to pick up stuff, everyone will have to line up behind, and they won't be able to move on until the truck's done its business and gone. So a lot of people are really concerned about that, as well as the stuff flying around because the bins don't have lids.
We have 3 minutes remaining and 3 questions, so we may not get them all done. Councillor Michael, then Mayor Andrew, and then Josh. So Josh, you may end up missing out.
Would you be opposed to those that are using the service currently to continue using the service?
I've asked for an opt-out. So
that is your preferred option?
And well, yeah, if we can opt out, but we don't want to ever opt in.
Thank you. Mayor Andrew.
Yeah, no, look, and thank you, Barbara, and others for your correspondence to us via email, and you're here today in person, so thank you. Question, so did I hear you say that you'd happily go back to a consultation process with your community, and you're not necessarily against recycling, but you just want to feel like you go through a proper consultation process? Is that correct?
I've been recycling for years through the centre, and
Yep.
I want to carry on doing that because I think it's better than trucks coming down our road. picking up the stuff. I mean, just the cost of getting a truck out there is ridiculous. The recycling centre means everything that goes there is already sorted. It goes there. It's a lot more cost effective and environmentally friendly, I believe.
Yeah, so the question though is, does your community want to have a reconsultation or?
Absolutely. We
again,
should have been consulted.
So you don't feel you were? Okay, that's fine, thank you.
We want to be consulted.
Great.
Yep.
Councillor Josh. Go
Yeah,
for
thank
it.
you. Thanks, Barbara, for your petition. My question's on the uptake of the service since it was implemented, and I note that the petitions that you provided were that the names were gathered in the middle of June. Can you comment on, since the implementation date, what sort of uptake there has been of the service by residents since that time?
The first day there were 12, and then Sarah O'Hagan told me the next time there were 15. This is 63 households, so it's not
sure.
very high, is it? And then the last couple of weeks, I've just kept an eye out myself. I haven't counted them, but there's been even less. And the people I know who wanted to use the service, there were 3 of those, they've not even put them out. And I just figured they had a whole lot of recycling at the beginning. They put it out and now they've got none, and it'll go weeks before they bring out another bin. I worked out how many bins I'd use. I'd use probably at most 20-something bins a year. And we're being offered being charged for 156 bin loads a year. It's just doesn't make sense. We don't need, if you had to have a service, once a month would be totally adequate, or over adequate, I think, for most of us. So, yeah.
Sure, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. We did well to get that done in 10 minutes. Thank you very, very much,
Thank
Barbara.
you.
Appreciate you coming in and presenting to us. I will now ask for a mover and seconder for the recommendation. A mover. Charlie can move. Seconded by Ross. Any comments? No, thank you very much. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And just to note that it is coming back to the next council meeting, so in one form or another. So we look forward to that happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the minutes of the 13 June meeting. Do I have any? Thank you, Mayor Andrew. No amendments. Seconder, Josh. Thank you very much, Councillor Josh. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay. Into the the gritty stuff in the agenda, and that. Oh, okay. Thank you, folk. So our first item is the Sargent Gallery program update, and we have 3 presenters today: Gay Batty, Rosemary Fletcher, and Andrew Clifford. Although I don't see Rosemary in the room, so maybe it's just.
I'll be reporting for.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
Morena. I'll take the report as read, and my comments would be that everything's on program. It's very busy on site. The gallery team are transitioning well, and finishing works are happening, particularly within the heritage building. Landscape works are progressing, and over the next weeks we are planning for the facilities training and handover. That's
Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. I'll just pick up from there, and through the chair, if we can take the report as read, I'll just highlight a few key points and updates as well. But firstly, just to endorse what Gay said, as various areas of the building are being completed and staff are increasingly accessing the spaces, the images we're seeing from inside are absolutely spectacular. It's going to be well worth the wait, and progress is very impressive. So from my section of the report, firstly to note recruitment activities with the Sergeant. We're delighted to have successfully recruited a number of new people to roles, in particular our new Head of Development. I want to introduce Nikki Manthel. And in her role as head of development, she'll be leading fundraising and a number of other revenue-generating strategies and initiatives, working alongside the trust board as well to ensure that we can deliver programs at the highest level we can with a minimum of impact on rates. We're also just finalising recruitment of a curatorial role, and we'll be looking at the front of house staff we need to run the gallery shortly. We also have contractors in place to start working out the finer detail of those opening programs and events as well, so we're rapidly moving into detailed planning for that. In terms of various activities that the gallery have been operating in this transitional time, a number of community presentations with a whole range of groups, and also we hosted a pop-up exhibition partnering with the Wanganui Māori Artist Collective Awarereroa in the community gallery, which was enormously successful. We had a very extensive list of workshops, talks and family activities, and we had 900 people through in the short time that that exhibition was on, so a fantastic effort in running that pop-up show across the road there, and well received by quite a wide range of the community, which we would like to think sort of sets the tone for how we expect the new facilities to operate as well, that we can connect with a wide range of people from throughout the region in those sorts of ways. And finally, in terms of handover and approaching the opening, as I say, we're into detailed planning on that side of things. Working in partnership with the iwi and other stakeholders to get that program right to work for everyone. It will include a public opening ceremony on the morning of Saturday the 9th of November, a weekend of community activations in and around the gallery, and further talks, tours and activities over the following weeks to get a good spread over a period of time, including at particular special weekends where we can focus on specific projects and themes throughout the gallery's program, such as our Edith Collier publication and exhibition, and the history of the Sargent Gallery as well. So the first weekend there'll be all focused on the new facilities, with some breathing space we can focus on some more particular things over the following weeks, and that'll spread that activity in a way that will settle into a business as usual sort of rhythm as we approach the summer period. And in terms of how that opening works, as I say, a range of activities to ensure we involve the entire community, and a range of strategies to maximise value as well, looking at a range of events, some of which will be ticketed, cash bar for some situations, and some self-catering events too. For example, in wanting to make sure everyone accesses and is familiar with the facilities, we want to make sure our colleagues here in council are familiar with the gallery. We've invited them to come and visit after the opening, and the executive leadership team, including David and Marianne, will be putting their own aprons on, wheeling out the barbecue to cater that one. There's no need for any external catering for that event, and we're grateful for David, Marianne and the others for their cooking contribution on that occasion. And those sorts of strategies, how we approach different events with a different range of ways of budgeting for them and delivering them, again, test out the various ways. Once we're into business as usual, we'll look at running the gallery as well. There's a range of options on how we do these things, and I think this will be a good demonstration of that. And I've got a fuller info sheet just on how things are going and what the next 100 days are going to look like with the gallery, which we'll be circulating to you all shortly just to keep you fully updated. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? I do have one. It's probably a gay question. I've been up to the library a couple of times lately, and obviously the landscaping work is very disruptive to the front of the library. What's the estimated date of when that should be clear and people can access the library more easily?
My understanding is that the program is due to complete at the end of October.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mayor Andrew.
Yeah, mine's a very simple question. The building warrant of fitness, when will that be issued?
I'll have to check on that in terms of the date, but clearly it would need to be well before the 9th of November.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to make sure that it's a milestone date in my view. Yeah.
CCC and those things. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Councillor Rob.
Yeah, the cafe operator, I believe there is a cafe operator identified. Will that be open on November the 9th? Or is it going to be a delay?
Through you, Chair, we are certainly planning to have it fully operational for opening, and a report will be coming back to Council in regards to the operating model to the next Council meeting.
Okay. And another question, please. The development of the parking areas, especially the one in front of the Alexander, that's on the plan. When are these parking areas going to be ready? Will they be ready for November the 9th?
Through you, Chair, the development of the parking space between the Davis Library and our new wing, that's on program, and that construction work has commenced and is expected to be completed before the opening.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're meaning by in front of the
Okay, so
house.
as you drive into Pukenamu Drive, you've got the Davis on your left, the Heritage Library on your right, and that mound, that hill in front of there, is supposed to be 25 car parks. Seems an excessive amount of money to spend on car parking to take that out, but it's in the plan, so what is happening?
Can I speak to that? If you want.
Given the blank face, Councillor Helen.
I think that Councillor Vincent is probably incorrect. I remember the plan was when the landscape plan was presented to us, that it was possible to put car parking on that mound, but that it was expensive and difficult because of the slope, and that was not part of what is being done in this first tranche of the completed landscape plan. But I think you're probably better to catch up with officers just to double check on that. Thank you.
It's good to hear that it's not parts. It's not a sensible thing to do. But it was, when I inquired, Deputy Mayor, it was given to me as part of the plan, and it's on there.
Moving on through questions, Councillor Charlie.
Thank you. Is there any intention to give us a sneak preview before the opening, or are you going to save the best till last?
Andrew.
Looking at protocols and how that opening morning will work with the pōwhiri, in terms of how we invite people in, that's the official moment to invite people in. So I guess prior to that, it's on a need-to-know basis, on the understanding that those who are working on the project, however we define that, may need to come through for a viewing, and so we will be negotiating that with iwi and other stakeholders in terms of what that preceding week is as the finishing touches are put on.
The reason I ask
what
is
would be appropriate to bring people through. We'd love to preview as much as we can.
we've been through 2 or 3 times
Yes.
prior,
Yeah.
and now it's getting to the good bit. We just wonder whether we can have another look.
Yes.
But it appears that the answer is that's no.
We will see what we can do. We would love to share it with you. We'd love to share it with everyone as soon as we can, because it is already looking spectacular, but there's a lot of work to do as well. We'll see how we go. Yes.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, thank you. Couple of questions. I note you mentioned there's both the medium and high range capital cost budgets are expected to increase by about 850,000 or have. I guess so possibly it's, if I'm reading that correct, the medium range might be about 71.5 million, and the high range will be about 72,800,000 odd to complete it. But with that creep of 150,000, is there any update? I can't see any. Is there any update on any further external fundraising? Or is that just going to, at this stage, is that definitely looking to be a ratepayer cost?
Through you, Chair, I know that the Sargent Gallery Trust is working hard to bring home another successful tranche of funding prior to the end of the construction period, and whether Andrew wants to add to that level of activity.
Simply to add to that, Nikki, who I've introduced, will be working alongside the Trust on their fundraising initiative, so we're very hopeful that we'll see some new sponsorship and other kinds of support in time for the opening to assist with the cost pressures.
Thank you. That's great news. Look forward to hearing further on that. In regard to the operating costs, which I don't think are reported here, but you've talked about, obviously, you've got Nikki, if that's correct, on board and looking at a curation role, etc. Is there any more drive, or is there any look to increase volunteer? You know, you've got a lot of friends of the sergeant, use of volunteers, and to look to reduce this operating cost of over 4 million, or about 4 million, which is obviously quite a cost pressure on our ratepayers?
With regard to staffing, we have a base level which was set through the long-term plan, and that really is a minimum in order to be able to operate the gallery in a professional manner, but indeed certainly we enjoy the support of the likes of the Friends and other volunteer organisations in the community which make it possible to run on that basis, and we'll certainly be looking to make good use of that. It saves us having to staff every little nook and cranny of the building to supervise visitors by having some supplementary volunteers, but we certainly need a core staffing group to oversee that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we definitely welcome Nikki's addition to the team and are very hopeful of her successes. So, going to put the motion. Can I have a mover? Councillor Helen, seconded by Councillor Josh. Any comments? Nope. Oh, Councillor Rob.
Yeah.
Almost
you.
missed out.
Well, the risk of sounding like a broken record, I have to talk about this parking situation again, because this is going to be important. You know, here we are spending 72 million or 70 on a new facility, fantastic new facility, and we've got a net gain from what we had there before of 7 car parks. And these are the figures that the manager has given me, Sarah O'Hagan. So they are accurate, I expect. And what's that going to do for the cafe operator? We're asking for a cafe operator. What's going to happen to that cafe operator down the track where he's got to ask, where there's no parking for his clients, virtually no parking for his clients, and there's new parking being talked about down at the Catholic Church area, which must be a 200-metre walk away. How's that going to work for a business? So please, someone have a look at this parking. There are options that can solve it, but no one's looking at it at this point in time. And boy, if council's going to suffer some embarrassment when this new facility opens, this will be it. When people are having to park way down Cameron Terrace, Bell Street, anywhere to get anywhere near the place. I hope it's like that, because it'll need to be like that if we're going to get the 80,000 visitors that we're projecting. But let's make sure that they've got adequate parking, please.
Councillor Helen.
Thank
Deputy
you.
Mayor.
Deputy Mayor, that's it. We're at Waikato. Councillor Vincent does raise a very good point, and it has been discussed previously, and I think it's probably opportune at the next meeting, Madam Chair, that a report on the planned parking solutions is brought to the table, so everybody's a bit more familiar. I am aware that in previous discussions, staff were going to look at other options to provide parking, and one of them may well have been at the local church. The idea is not to clutter the whole of Pukenami Queen's Park with lots of parking. That is not the use of our premier park. It should be primarily a pedestrian zone. It does mean, though, that we need to look at where people can reasonably park, where buses can park, because we will get bus loads coming, and especially those opening month or so, we will need to provide bus parking and adequate parking in areas that we might not otherwise have, and that's where places like churches, who are largely have their parking areas unused during the week, could be extremely useful. And I'd encourage our staff to be engaging with quite a number of local churches in that area. And as long as I think we make that route to the gallery fun and easy to navigate, people will walk. It's a lovely area. And maybe something like stars on the pavement, like was initiated with 1,000 stars, could be fun ways for people to navigate their way through to the gallery and just make it a whole fun experience. And that's easy to achieve and affordable. But thank you, Councillor Vinson, for raising this regularly. It is very important, and let's do it right and do it once. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Charlotte.
Thank you. I just want to add one more thing to that conversation, which is this is an ongoing conversation that's happening within the Public Transport Committee as well. And that needs to be considered as well, because there's currently a lack of clarity on where that bus stop is going to be for the tide. So that needs to be in the conversation as well. So if there is a report coming, it would be wise to include that as well.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you. Nearly there. We're nearly there. Wanganui and parking. Wanganuians love their cars. I just want to say that no matter when it does open on November the 9th, those first few weeks, no matter what we do, no matter what we provide, no matter what we advise the public to be aware of, etc., it will be full on for the first few weeks. And there will be comments from somebody who couldn't get in the queue or had to wait in the queue or couldn't get a car park when they drove up. Ugh. It's going to happen. Look, I know this sounds bizarre, but when I tried to go to a certain new burger bar that opened up in Wanganui, I couldn't get a car park. I had to walk 1 block, and then I had to wait 45 minutes for my Queen burger. But, I know, bizarre. But I did wait, but the burger was fantastic. And I'm sure the gallery will be way, way above that in my estimation. But Wanganuians just need to be patient and just be supportive for the first few weeks, because it's going to be interesting. Whether councillors are I'm sure we do have an invitation at the opening, which is nice. But I might wait a few more weeks after that before I go through the venue. So I just want Wanganuians to appreciate what a magnificent venue it is, and the demand will be very, very high for the first few weeks. Good luck.
Thank you. And one would hope that the demand exceeds 2 or 3 weeks. And while I absolutely appreciate where those who are concerned about the parking are coming from, I'm also aware that there are many places around the world where you've got to walk a long way to get to key things. And I know that the Eiffel Tower's been under our noses for the last week or so, and it's a little bit different scale to the Sargent Gallery, just a little bit. But you can't get a park within quite a considerable distance from that, and many other places that people go. And so I wonder whether or not an emphasis could be on the disabled parking rather than general parking, and the rest of us can walk. All right.
Just a quick one.
Just a quick comment.
Is the Memorial Hall car park at the front available, or will it be available for parking?
I'll hand that one over to Maz.
Yes, absolutely. So for the whole opening week, we've reserved that. So buses and cars, and Andrew's team are working closely with the venues team on the whole.
Not full time? Not
Permanently, no. I mean, it will be by exception. So if there was a large tour group or something coming in, absolutely, we'd book that in. So we work in partnership with them.
We'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very, very much. We look forward to seeing you next month with some more exciting details. We now invite Trish. Is Trish here? Yep. Trish Taylor-Pope. Significant projects, the wastewater management. Yeah, curbside, sorry. You're right. Curbside, Freudian slip. Over to you. You can either present or just do your presentation. It's your call.
So kia ora koutou, thank you for reading my report. I take it as read, but first of all I'd like to introduce Morgan Harrison. Morgan is the new manager for the Waste Services. She's been with us for 5 weeks now and settling well into the role, so welcome.
Welcome.
So I will take you through the presentation, just to highlight some of the highlights of the curbside service. As you know, it is rolled out. The rollout has been very successful. While we acknowledge that it doesn't suit everybody, Council is definitely making a change towards achieving our objectives of the waste plan. And curbside services has been well accepted by a majority of the community so far. So we did quite a lot of work on the design to try and make it so it stands out, that there's a message on all of our vehicles. So we've got recycle the different types of materials that go in the 3 crates, and our key messages was remove the lids, recycling 1, 2 and 5, and that wash, and trying to get people educated into recycling. We've got a fibre truck. There was a little bit of confusion on the first week around the fibre truck because it followed around, not necessarily right behind the recycling trucks. So the fibre truck is a smaller truck that goes around and picks up the paper and cardboard crates. It's not necessarily at the same time as the big trucks because there's 3 trucks going around one route, whereas the fibre truck does those 3 routes that the trucks take. We have significant advertising that has been done. This is at one of the billboards on buses. Once again, wash, squash and lids off as being the key messaging. The feedback has been positive. The number of emails and phone calls in from the community is significantly less than what we anticipated. We did a lot of talking with other councils that have rolled out the curbside service leading up to the introduction of our service, and they all said be prepared for the significant increase in volumes of traffic coming through. We are fortunate that we haven't had the large volumes that we anticipated, so we're hoping that our education material and the public consultation and the going out and engaging with the community has helped with a lot of the queries. We have now had a total of 7 assisted services applications, so they're for people who physically can't take their crates to the curbside, and the waste team is working with people whenever they put in an application to determine if the service is appropriate for them and where the best place to place the bins has been. We have had a significant increase in people purchasing the trolleys. So we had a local businessman create or retrofit trolleys for us, and that has been really popular amongst residents. There was initial concerns about the amount of litter covering the streets. Now, there is going to be instances of litters, but there hasn't been significant amounts of litter on the streets. And there's been 143 tonnes of recyclables, so as at last week, or that was within the first week of the service, that's a lot of recycling that has been diverted from going to the landfill as a result of the introduction of the curbside service. The main reasons why crates haven't been collected through that have been put out is either they aren't recycled correctly, so we've got lids on, or there's mixed recycling in the crates. So instead of having your plastic and tin in one crate and your glass and your carbon fibre, they are being mixed. And also stacking of crates. So one of the issues that we have found is that people are putting these 3 crates on top of each other, and in particular, if they're putting them out the night before and it's a windy day and they fall over, then of course we're going to get a lot of stuff lying around. So the education at the moment is on continuing to remind people to wash, squash and remove lids, and also don't stack high. If it's a really windy day, put one of your heavier crates on top of the other, but otherwise they've been presented nicely at the curbside. So we've had, in the first 4 weeks, there was about 150 odd items that weren't sorted correctly, so crates that weren't picked up because the items weren't sorted correctly. There was general rubbish in the bins, items are not clean, crates are over full, and not approved crates, but the positioning of the crates has been really good. The number of non-compliances is extremely low for the introduction of a new service. We had 323 calls that came through the call centre, and out of that 227 CRMs were created for further action to be taken. There was roughly 4 miscollections per day, but a lot of that is because they weren't put out to the curb on time. So whenever the waste team get a notification to say that their crate hasn't been collected, the first thing that they do is they check with the contractor, and the contractor can go back and have a look and see whether the crate was actually out on time or not. If it is a genuinely missed crate, then they go back and pick it up. And we've had about 24 sets of crates replaced, and they're due to them going wandering, people not taking them in on time when they were delivered, so people took other people's crates. There have been some damaged crates, but that's pretty low for the introduction of the service. And once again, key messages, lids off. I see, when I've been driving around having a look, I've seen that a lot of the plastics and tin crates haven't been picked up because there are lids on them. So definitely lids are not acceptable. And yeah, if people think that their crates haven't been collected, if they can leave it till later on in the afternoon to call in. What we found in the first couple of days, people were ringing first thing in the morning to say that their crates weren't collected because their neighbours had been, but some of that was to do with the fibre crates being picked up at a different time. So the trucks will come round. They've been finishing relatively early, about 3:30 in the afternoon, so we can safely say that if your crate hasn't been picked up by 4, then it is likely that it hasn't been picked up. And we can have a look at the reasons why. Issues we found that we hadn't quite anticipated were trees and power lines because of the size of the trucks. So the trucks are 3 metres high, and when we initially went round and had a look, we identified areas that we thought were going to be issues, and we worked with the contractor about what that may look like and where it would be best for residents to position their crates. But we didn't realise the amount of power lines that were going to be an issue with the trucks going around as well. So that's been ongoing discussions with the waste team and also with the contractor around how to best service the streets. And the biggest thing for me is to do a special thanks to a lot of people who have been involved in the recycling project. So there have been a number of teams within council that have supported the rollout of the contract. We've got the project delivery team, which was Stuart, Tom, John, Raywin and Rowena. We've been meeting regularly to make sure that we could get the project up and running on due date. The litter team who helped with the first week of rollout for us, we had somebody or a vehicle following the trucks on the first week just so we could get an idea of what it was going to look like, how people were presenting their crates to the curb, to give us an idea of what additional education and advertising and promotional support that we need to help people present their crates correctly. The customer services team who fielded a lot of calls prior to the start of the service. The IT team who did a lot of work behind the scenes for closing the loop of inquiries that come in, going to the contractor, coming back to the waste team. All our online forms, we've got our online assisted service form as well, and as well as the trolley. Also the comms team did a lot of work with Tom, who is our comms advisor. They did a good job in getting information out to the community. Eunomia, who supported Stuart and the team in negotiating the contract, and Claire Lilly for helping pull that together. It was a big contract to bring together, and it took a lot of negotiating, so can't underestimate the time that those people spent through that process. And David from Liquid Edge, he did all our design for us, so he's a local designer, very responsive, and I think the campaign messaging and collateral was very clear, and I think that also helped with the success so far of the introduction of the service. Next steps, we are continuing to monitor the exception reporting that comes in. We are looking at the development of further marketing collateral, particularly with the thought of food scraps coming in next year. We've identified lessons learned, and we can apply them to the methodology behind the food scraps. And Morgan and the team are going to be working on the project plan or the implementation plan for the food scraps service. And Stuart has already been meeting with the contractor just around the KPIs and monitoring how we're going, any concerns, any issues that need to be addressed. So that's already started. So that's our presentation.
Thank you very much, Trish, for a thorough presentation. Question time, Councillor Philippa.
Oh, how did I get up there first? Thank you for your report. Just a couple of things. Plastic lids that you mentioned a few times. My understanding, well, it seems like it might be a bit confusing, because if you go to the recycling centre, they take them, and I was there probably a couple of weeks ago, and they've always, well, for a period of time, so it's okay to have your plastic lids on there, but then suddenly it's not with curbside recycling. Do you not think that's quite an issue in terms, because the communities are really used to the recycling centre? And I guess my question might be, do you think perhaps we need to stop plastic lids at the recycling centre so that we get a consistency?
And that is a discussion that we will be having with the recycling centre. Morgan, if you want to...
So there's a couple of reasons why lids aren't accepted in our recycling, and that is one, there is standardisation of curbside recycling items through MFE. They've introduced that on the 1st of February this year for all councils who provide curbside collections. The recycling centre, obviously the introduction of recycling services at curbside will have some impact on the utilisation at the recycling centre, and we are going to undertake a piece of work on how we operate at the recycling centre and what services the community would like to see there. We'll look to introduce a survey of visitors to the centre over the coming weeks to understand what they use the site for, what they'd like to see at the site, and potentially lids can be recycled, just not through standardised curbside recycling. So maybe we look at other markets and opportunities there.
Councillor,
Sorry, I had another question. Yeah.
Okay.
In regard to cardboard in particular, I've seen quite a lot, and I've had a few people talk to me about it, the large pieces of cardboard that are sticking up here, there, in their curbside recycling, or they'll put it underneath, and there's kind of a view, well, hey, I actually don't even want to, I don't even use a couple of my crates, but people will once in a while have, particularly if I bought something, some consumer items, a lot of cardboard, and they're kind of like, I'm paying over $170 here, and they won't take my cardboard. So do we really need to be that strict that that cardboard can't go over the level of the curbs of the container? Because that's my understanding, isn't it? On all those containers.
All the containers that's recycling to the top. If you don't use your 3 crates, you can use 2 for cardboard and fibre, and you can also break down the cardboard so it's not sticking significantly over the top. The contractor has their threshold of what they will accept and what they won't accept, and also for larger pieces of cardboard that you just can't break down, there is the recycling centre as well. So there are options for people, it's just how they best manage their cardboard.
Deputy Mayor Helen.
Thank you very much. In terms of the amounts being picked up, the total recycling now that we have compared to what we did before, have you got figures on that? And if you don't, how are you going to report those and when?
Through you, Chair, we're providing updates weekly in the first 4 weeks, and a question was raised around the impact at the recycling centre and comparing tonnes. So unfortunately, when curbside recycling commenced, the recycling centre went into a bit of a shutdown while OG were fixing the roof at the baling site. So we weren't accepting plastics or fibre. So what we are planning on doing, and we have already started, we've put in some traffic counters at the site at the moment, and we will be monitoring the tonnes that have come in through the month of August and make a comparison to what we have previously been seeing at the site.
Thank you. I guess even annual to annual, once it's embedded, be really good. Be good to see that reported. I understand that OG Fibre, there's been in the news looking at changing their operations, but that's not affecting recycling.
Not at this stage, to our knowledge, no.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
Councillor Robb.
Thank you. Yes, I think the collection service is bedded in really well, and I think those crates, the little trolleys, are just wonderful. But when I say but, what I want to talk to you about is the real issue of recycling, which is what's happening to the product, not in the report. So it's all going to live in. So what's the plan now for the new sort line facility to be operating in Wanganui?
Through you, Chair, we will be conducting some work as a team on the future. Obviously, the recycling centre, we will be understanding what that will look like as a future state as well. So we do plan on doing a bit of work. Low-cost bins, the contractor, they would like to get up and running with a sort line as soon as possible as well, so we can process or bale our commodities. There are a few bigger things happening in the waste space as well, product stewardship schemes. The plastic packaging product stewardship scheme is being proposed to government soon, so that could also impact how we process and manage our recyclables to end markets. So at this stage, the plastics, tin and aluminium, the mixed stuff, it will be going to a sort line in Wellington, and the fibre will go to OG for baling and sorting, and the glass goes directly to Auckland at Visi.
Unfortunately, we have a lot of questions to ask, which is obviously not appropriate at a meeting like this. But because we haven't got a waste advisory group now, we can't have these conversations any other way. So I have some other questions about the contract. Now, is there a review period in the contract?
Through you, there's an annual review.
I'm going
but,
to.
But
so
that's
I'm going to
probably-
pause you here. Sorry,
Yeah.
to be rude. I think maybe we should take some of those questions offline.
Well, I'd
and
like
have,
to.
and have a discussion about where they can be more appropriately. They're kind of outside the scope of this item, but I hear what you're saying, that they are important questions and you need to get your answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just leave it to the comments then.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Michael.
I just want to confirm, I heard 143 tonnes in the first week. 4 weeks. Yeah, so I knew I heard wrong. That's fine. 4 weeks. And my other question is a silly question, but what do we do with the lids?
Currently, they're
Just
in
rubbish?
the rubbish. Yeah, landfill at the moment.
I must have a very nice guy because I just put mine back on, but that's me. And my only other question is nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to go to the recommendation, which is to receive the report. Can I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Helen, seconded by Councillor Glenda. Comments? Councillor Rob.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say I totally agree with the work that's done by the team in getting the curbside collection operating. You know, there's a lot of work involved, and it's been handled really well. And I think the public in general have appreciated it as well. You know, but I think there is some issues arising here, and what really concerns me is that as the portfolio holder for waste, the only way I can ask these questions is currently is through this meeting. Now, last week I sent an email to ask for a meeting to Sarah O'Hagan, and I haven't had a response. So this is not good for the community, because there are serious questions to ask. What's been coming apparent is that we should review whether we need a weekly or a fortnightly service. Nearly everywhere in the country has a fortnightly service. And I know that with my own recycling, I'm a pretty avid recycler. 2 weekly is enough for me. And the cost to the community of the service is very high. This is $147 gone on the rate demand this year. In the Western Bay of Plenty, where I also pay for a recycling service, it's $149, which includes the waste collection. We're going to go on top of that. But one of the things is, making the choice of having a fortnightly or a weekly collection is a major influence in this. So, I mean, I ask a question about when's the review period? These are the sort of things that need to be discussed, you know, and there are other issues that arose. As part of the tender process, one of the questions that was included was asking the contractors about providing a general waste service. What's happening about that? That's pretty interesting stuff. What's happening with Low Cost Bin's new drop-off centre around at Lifferton Street? Why are we having one in Mariah Place and another one operated by a contractor in Lifferton Street? These are the questions that we need to get on top of. Otherwise, we're getting a situation where this council operated for as long as I've been on this council, with one excellent staff member in the waste activity, and now we've got probably 5, 6. Now, what's happening here? So I just hope that there's a realisation amongst management that there's a need to go more depth in this whole activity and cooperate together instead of getting a situation where I ask to speak to an officer and I'm told that I have to go to another officer to ask whether I can talk to that person. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Helen.
Thank you. I'm almost speechless, really, because for those of us who've been on council for a long time, they know that if you want answers, and especially a report presented, you ask the chair and the CEO for a report or for answers to your questions. That is a long established process, and that is still in place. And as a portfolio holder, you have even more mana to ask that question. So I suggest that any councillors have any questions about any issue, please take it to the relevant committee chair and the CEO and the senior officer in charge, and you will get your answers. And if you want it in a report, it will come in a report. It's a really great process, and I think our public should feel rest assured that this is an open council and we are more than happy to discuss things. Get on back to what is in the report and the subject of this report. Thank you for a great report and for a fantastic service, which has obviously rolled out very well and has been received very well, and is a good, clean service, and so well done. In terms of, I have my own little niggle, and one of them is the lids issue, and I do take them off, and I hate having to put them in the rubbish, so I'm collecting mine, and I will be taking it down to the recycling centre on a regular basis. It's just, you know, like, save every bit of recycling that you can. So I look forward to the survey that you will hold with our public about whether or not you retain that service at the recycling centre. But to me, that's the whole point of recycling centres, is that we can go beyond what might be mandated nationally in terms of national cycling, curbside recycling. So good news report. It's really lovely, and it's time to move on. Thank you.
Well, well said, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Charlotte.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the very thorough report and presentation. I just want to really point out what an incredible comms strategy there was around this. I was incredibly impressed, and it was consistent, and it was positive, and it was engaging, and I found that the comms team was really engaged, and so I want to congratulate your whole team and comms on that, because it's obviously paid off with the way that the first weeks have rolled out. So a huge well done to the team.
Councillor Glenda.
Thank you. Yes, I have to agree. Huge project to undertake, and it's been exceptionally executed in all areas from my point of view. So thank you for that. And I am assured of constant reevaluation. Your reports show that, and looking really proactively at mitigating the issues that come up. And there have been some issues, and there were going to always be some issues. But it seems as if they have been relatively small from what you were expecting. So that's a great plus as well. So I just think, great. It's awesome. Thank you. Let's roll this out. Let's reevaluate it. Let it run for a while before we start, attacking the issues, because there are always going to be issues. And yeah, I just think it's exceptional. So thank you all to all the team that have helped to make this so successful to date. I wish I could get recycling at the gate, and I can't. I'm not able to.
Are you
but
rural?
Pardon?
You must be rural.
I'm rural. So, yes, to the public, just get on board with it and support it. I know that most of you have, and most of you will. And, the lid thing, yeah, well, that's just one little thing. But overall, it's a great service for you to have at the gate. Thank you. Thank you to the team.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. For weeks it's been the topic of conversation in my area, and all our neighbours do talk to each other. Congratulations. I remember the first community meeting that I attended where the questions were put to now. 4 weeks on, it's amazing. All my neighbours, their bins are full on a, sorry, Councillor Vincent, on a weekly basis. I won't describe what's in those bins because some of them are excessive in some areas. They might need some help there. But those bins are full. And I did a survey of that 19 houses, and 6 who were willing to speak to me, 6 admitted that they have never used the Mariah Place Recovery Centre. Never. And so here I am getting goosebumps because we're seeing tons and tons of recycling not going to landfill. The bottom line is we are trying to, in Wanganui, do our bit on this planet to protect the environment. And we're doing it darn well. Last point. I do follow the Wanganui District Council Facebook page and website. I don't go on it for comments. But you're currently running, and I know you finished speaking, but you're currently running the Recycling Olympics. And I've been promoting that on my Facebook page. I would encourage the councillors to promote that on your Facebook page. It's a lot of fun and it raises awareness. The children in my area are telling their parents and their caregivers what to put in the crates. That, for me, is what the next generation is going to do much better than mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations to all those involved. This started way before I became a councillor, and I know a lot of you here have been involved, and a lot of the team have been involved. People who've gone have been involved, so well done to everyone for a good rollout. The community wanted this. 70% of people wanted this from my survey prior to being a councillor. I think we have a long way to go, which is good, because we can iterate along the way. To answer Deputy Mayor Helen's question, 2,150,000 tons, yep, a year with the Resource Centre in 2022, and it was stable for 3 years. That was reported in the Herald in 2022. That's about 165 tonnes over a 4-week period, so we're actually below currently, so I know we have a long way to go. The reason why that's going to be the case is because people like me are still going to the Resource Centre and we're still stacking up our piles ready to go. We're slowly getting used to curbside recycling, so I assume that's going to go up much higher. I want to reiterate though that I would like us not to promote more recycling until we do more recycling. At the moment, this is a service people wanted. It's curbside recycling. It stops you from driving. It stops you from economic development point of view, but until we have more recycling, let's not promote we're doing more recycling. Thank you.
Councillor Charlie.
It's a bit of a question.
Oh.
But when you talk about lids, you talk about the lids on these wine bottles.
Wine bottles and milk bottles. Jars.
What about tin can lids?
The lids have to be in the can.
Right. Okay, thank you. It's a lot of wine, isn't it?
Yeah, and
week.
everything's got to be clean, of course.
That's a lot of wine for 1 week.
We are not here to judge people's consumption of anything. Okay, order, please. Okay, we're going to put the Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, thank you. Just really briefly, I think, thank you for the good work. It's a really good report. There's great work happening in the space, but I think there is a real, I think what's being raised is probably the conversation, not meant to, between Councillor Vincent and perhaps Councillor Helen or the Deputy Mayor, is that, and I'm sure the team's looking at this, we need to keep looking at, obviously it's early days, but we need to look at the impact, we need to crunch the numbers, we need to, you know, is Wanganui going to be a 1 or 2 weekly service going forward? Do we, you know, when we bring in food waste and the whole cost of this, the work with low-cost bins around, you know, can we you know, encourage people and get lower cost around people's rubbish, you know, reduce the cost of what it's costing people to get their rubbish done, so when they're paying recycling. So I guess, you know, it's really about, you know, the cost and the big picture for the community. I think within council, you know, we know, you know, with the cuts we've had to make in our operational costs, you know, our staff, I imagine, will be struggling a lot more to service 13 councillors or whatever. And then we've got these portfolios coming on board. So, you know, but, you know, we've got it, you know, I think the questions that Councillor Vincent is just, you know, there's the big questions are important and we need to get to them and we need to understand their impact. We need this service to be effective and to be efficient. And that's that's the work I see happening in the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very, very much. We look forward to some more great updates. Next item, at last, Transportation Quarterly Performance Report. Invite our acting manager, Brent, back to council briefly. Thank you. Wonderful to see you. And I'm sure you're going to introduce Mark to us as well.
Absolutely.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Council.
Could you just make sure the thing is, yeah. So
Thank you, Council. Good to be back. I'd like to introduce Mark Ellingham as the new Transport Manager for Council. I've been filling the role temporarily for the last 2 months, as well as prior to that undertaking a what we call a continuous bid for the 24 to 27 year funding block. And look, I'll crack right into it. I'll start with the key points. And what's crucial for the year is a number of what we call corridor projects have been completed, and that is your walking and cycling projects, a vast raft of those, a vast raft of road to zero safety improvement projects, generally geared around the ideology of the last two NLTP rounds, which is around climate change projects and a bent towards a lot more walking and cycling type activities. What's crucial to understand is our pavement maintenance has been under significant pressure in the last year or so. Well, it's actually been under pressure for several years, and that's generally due to a lot of forestry activities and a lot of prep work for our reseals regime, which we've been, to be blunt, losing ground on. What's important to understand for the 24 to 27 year funding block is that Transport Minister Simeon Brown has signalled significant increases in those areas, which is great to see. However, what it's important to understand is the trade-off on that will be significant cuts to the walking and cycling, the road to zero safety, and most importantly, footpath projects and footpath maintenance. So when you see the rhetoric on the news, it's important to understand that it's not new money, it is reallocation of money. Key projects for the year: Somme Parade, emergency works, big, very large scale project, goes right back to Cyclone Dovey. 90 metres of footpath and shed pathway were affected. It's been quite a complex project. $6.5 million worth of work, majority funded by the NZTA, and it certainly has had significant disruption to the community through the Somme Parade section. However, it is now basically completed, subject to landscaping and some minor fencing, but it's had some significant challenges, and being on the Awa, naturally it's a very, very sensitive area. Other projects: Ernie's Bridge up the Karapawa, which is a significant forestry input bridge, is currently being built. It was started prior to the end of the financial year. The money's been carried through. It's a $1.5 million bridge, which services that GDP component for that forestry work to the harvest to come back into Wanganui. There's also another bridge up Creek Road, which was a bridge I was campaigning to deal with back in 2022, and that's now been built. It's into service as we speak. There's a significant amount of emergency works carryover also that's still flowing through. There's just over $4 million worth of work still to complete, and that work's been resubmitted to NZTA to enable us to carry on with completing those projects through a vast range of recent emergency works. We've been effectively doing emergency work since 2004 non-stop. That's, I guess, the key components of where we're at. And as I said, the 24 to 27 year funding block is very complex at the moment. we put together a number of projects around under the old government regime, and a number of those, of course, will be rather controversial when it comes to the new regime looking at those projects. So 1st of September is when we find out what our new funding stream is. We're running to an indicative budget as we speak, and we'll find out 1st of September and understand where we're heading from there. But as I say, more money into pavements, what they call the pothole prevention fund. It's not just going out fixing potholes. It is all the areas that make up the funding categories that deal with those potholes. So it is your pavement renewals, your pavement maintenance, your drainage, your reseals, your rehabs, and so on. Now, 2 key projects which haven't been completed in this 3-year funding block. One is the Wakefield Street Bridge. It's been resubmitted for the 24 to 27 year block. I costed that bridge back up in 2019, and it was under the $2 million cap to be built under our safety improvements project. When we went to bid that bridge in 2022, the bridging costs had gone through the roof due to spiralling inflation, so it breached the cap. That's been resubmitted in a new category. The other one is the Aramo Railway Walkway, which is the clip-on to the Aramo Railway Bridge. That is also being resubmitted with a business case, which is pending approval as we speak. That's my brief summary of the... I'll take any questions you have.
Oh. Well, first of all, a big welcome to Mark. You've got your work cut out for you, haven't you?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm obviously being new to the region. It's going to be quite a long time to pick up on the projects that are actually underway, as well as our regions, our roads, and what's actually within the district. But having a quick look around and some really good tours out over the last few days, I've been incredibly impressed with the work that has been taking place. The culvert in which we've used bridging containers as a temporary fix to do it, seeing that innovation that's actually taking place is really good, and being able to save money and use what's actually local has, I think, delivered some really good savings. So my first impressions have been incredibly positive, and I think that's from some good work that's been put in over the years.
Wonderful. Councillor Charlie Chin.
Yep, thank you. Ernie's and Creek Road Bridge, I know them both. What protections in place to stop them being taken out by the next avalanche of slash, if any?
They are a more robust bridge for a start, and they have significant freeboard that's been allowed for to tie in. Creek Road itself was not due to slips of any kind. It was simply a condition because it was effectively used as a forestry carting corridor. Ernie's Bridge hasn't been affected by slips either. The key bridge that you probably need to talk about is Culvert 49 on the Karapoa, which is where the box culvert was taken out in 2021. I remember it well because back then I was in the Chronicle every Saturday night regarding that particular exercise. We had 3 floods in a very, very short space of time. That one is still being worked through as we speak, but Ernie's Bridge and Creek Road are in the clear.
Are the bridges a better option than the culvert?
A bridge would potentially be a better option for Culvert 49,
yeah.
And that's something we're working through now. So consents are being undertaken now to find out what we can and can't do.
Thanks.
And that's part of that $4.2 million package that's gone through to NZTA.
Great. Councillor Charlotte.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks for the thorough report. There's a lot in there. The thing that stuck out to me was the segment on the Mountains to Sea trail. And I just had a question around that agreement that you're seeking for the Stop Bank section. What kind of agreement are you seeking?
The agreement is within the port itself. So back when I was here in 2022, I had an agreement with the port to go in behind the Downer depot and then work through back onto Heads Road again. There's been some issues around some treatment plant on site in the port, which potentially impedes that particular route. So an agreement's being sought to actually clarify that as we speak. So there's one little piece in the centre that just needs to be clarified.
The route itself.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Josh.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question around the road safety Let's Go program, and you mentioned in the report that Waikakotahi is unlikely to fund it for the next funding block. So in terms of our response to that, is that likely going to be, would it be an annual plan item that comes back to us for council to fully fund it going forward, or what's your thinking in that space?
Yes, it would have to be. So we will lose our subsidy. Well, we will. I'm preempting this, but it is most likely we will lose our subsidy. The entire team in NZTA has been disbanded. They no longer are employed. So the writing's on the wall. We will lose that significant portion.
And what's the, I mean, no need to be too specific, but what's the approximate quantum of that subsidy?
Well, it's a 62% subsidy. So okay. It is a significant amount of money.
Sure.
Yeah. So to fund that as a council is it's a large amount of money.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, I think kind of further on Councillor Josh's question a wee bit, but yeah, the walking and cycling. If I read things right, and the minister's announcements, you've said funding's going to go more into reallocation into kind of roads, and money out of the walking and cycling, and active transport, as we kind of call it, I think. Where do you? Kind of a little bit around the Let's Go, but I also think there's other options around, our partners like Sport Wanganui, etc. And yeah, there's some other options there. But how do you think we can keep progressing, active roads, walking and cycling, our pathways, without the level, in my view, we didn't get enough done in the last, why that money was really out there. We made some good progress. But for example, the whole U Park cycleway, completing that, a round circuit there would make a huge difference to our wider community. Have you got any ideas around inventive ways we can still try and squeeze money out of government, etc. Perhaps with some co-funding with other partners as well?
As you say, it's finding other funding streams which are hard to come by. Look, that 62% subsidy we receive is just so vital to us. Otherwise, we are restricted to our local share, which is under massive pressure. Like yourself, I was delighted to hear the announcement by Minister Simeon Brown about the new funding in the Pothole Prevention Fund. Great news, but yeah, we're facing the chop elsewhere, and we have to find other funding streams. Where they come from, we just don't know at this stage. The Let's Go program has been very, very successful for a number of years. It actually taught my kids how to ride a bike. Two of my kids who couldn't even ride a bike, I gave up on, and they made it work. So I'm a great fan of that program. The walking and cycling, we have made huge strides in that area, but we were funded by the 32% we had to contribute to it as well. Well, back then, of course, it was 30%. It's now 32. It was 30. So it's only gone up in this particular year.
And just for clarity, I think we made some really great gains, and thank you, but compared to some other districts similar, they really got ahead. They really, if you go to some other districts and see the quantum of cycleways and walkways, I think Wanganui's still got a little bit that we need to come up a little bit over. Is that your view or not? I'm interested to hear your view there.
It's a balancing act because you can't just do cycleways. You still have to deal with your forestry harvest. You still have to deal with your you have to deal with your footpaths. You have to deal with your corridor maintenance. There's a lot of other things that come into the play as well. If we skew the balance too much in one area, we pay the price elsewhere. And it's fair to say the money we did put into shared pathways, we have paid the price in our pavements and in some cases in our footpaths as well.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Helen.
Oh, thank you. Lovely to see you back, and welcome to our newest member. There's nothing in here about speed bumps, and we hear a lot from the community about speed bumps. And we've just had some taken out from Dublin Street because there were probably too many speed bumps. Can you just give us a few minutes on why we put speed bumps in?
It's part of the Road to Zero program. Now, the key thing about being in this role is you report to two masters, Council and NZTA. Now, NZTA has a very, very large ideology that is imposed on us, and their solution in the recent NLTP was to slow traffic down by using physical obstacles, a lot of speed bumps, a lot of safety improvements around schools. That's been very, very prominent. And yes, I have put a number in that were effectively imposed on us by the agency through the safety program. So we have a a committee through NZTA that effectively analyses our network and effectively directs a large chunk of that safety expenditure into those areas. And they were very heavily in favour of those speed bumps. So yes, to be fair, if we'd let them run right, we would have put a lot more in. But we have actually rallied back against a number of them. So generally, we've restricted those what they call speed humps, which is effectively traffic calming devices, to areas where we believe they are applicable to genuinely slowing traffic down around schools and around sensitive areas such as old people's homes and so on.
Yeah, thanks very much. And a lot of them have been put into with feedback from the community where they particularly had issues and they were asking for them, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. The Dublin Street Bridge, it's a few years away in replacement of that. That business case is progressing at some stage, is it?
Yes, it is. Yes, I earmarked $300,000 in the 21 to 24 year block for that business case, and that money has been spent. We're proceeding our way through that. The program I set in place back in 2019 was the first 3 years with a business case, the next 3 years with the consenting, and the following 3 years after that were the procurement options around that. So 9 years to get to 2030 and to build it. To my dismay, of course, the original price I put on that bridge, it's gone up in a big way. I'm not joking when I say this. The bridging costs have doubled in the last 3 years. Now, that's a symptom of general inflation in the construction industry, plus huge demand on those bridging resources because of Cyclone Gabriel. You cannot find structural engineers or structural builders to save your life. We've been doing well just to have what we've had in our community, and that's mainly through local resources. So, look, a new price tag will be put on that bridge, and it won't be pretty. And to be blunt, too, when we stack up Dublin Street Bridge against the other priorities around the country since Cyclone Gabriel, we all know what happened to bridges around the country. We may be dropping down the queue.
Oh, okay.
And I don't like saying that, but that's potentially a reality.
The bridge safety is monitored regularly, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it's still fine to be operating, and we've got no foreseeable date that it might need to close.
They were built to last. That bridge was built in 1915. It's a very, very old bridge, but it's very, very robust. It doesn't look it, but it is. Yeah. But the key thing is it's the maintenance regime starts to ramp up exponentially the longer we leave it, and so it becomes more expedient for us to replace the bridge.
Oh, okay. So there's nothing driving us to have to replace it. It's just that it is obviously at some stage it would need to get replaced because of age.
Correct.
But it's the cost drivers, the pressures of higher maintenance costs constantly.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
You treat the same as an old car. You keep an old car on the road with a warrant of fitness. It'll cost you more and more as time goes on. It's more. It makes more sense to replace the vehicle. Same with a bridge.
Okay, thank
you. There's no issue of the bridge collapsing or anything like that. It is simply a factor of time and money that comes in. NZTA's stance could be that you've got two other bridges. You have a highway bridge and a city bridge, so live without it, people. And that obviously wasn't acceptable prior to Cyclone Gabriel. It's still really not acceptable now, but that may be their stance. So we will have to take our chances in the RTC meetings from this point on to lobby for that bridge to carry on the program it's on.
Okay, but it's not at risk even to get funding for maintenance, is it?
No. We've got funding for maintenance, but that maintenance is going up every year.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't want to be pumping maintenance money into that bridge for too long.
Okay, but we can assure our community we're not going to lose Dublin Street Bridge. We're just working on trying to get a replacement at some point.
We are geared towards a replacement.
Yeah.
But yes, there are I spent some time in Gisborne during Cyclone Gabriel dealing with bridges that had fallen over, and the need is great around the country. And yeah, as I said, we may drop down the queue. I hope we don't, but that is a potential reality.
That's great. And very finally, there are a number of citizens who are passionate about keeping the bridge long term, even if we build a new one, and they are rallying around lobbying where this new bridge might go. I guess the message to them is just wait. We're nowhere even near deciding if even A, we need the money, and B, there's a whole planning work to undergo, and that could be years away now.
Yes, the recommended process when you build a new bridge is you knock the old one down and you get rid of it. Bear in mind too, it's full of lead paint and all sorts of other nasties, which is sitting right over the Awa. So You still have to maintain that bridge if you keep it, but you don't get a subsidy anymore. Once you build a new bridge, your subsidy is applied to the new bridge. The old one, you're on your own. You're paying 100% of that maintenance for future. You may use it as a cycleway bridge, as a heritage item, but you will pay for it. I've done modelling into where that new bridge should be. I've looked into potentially having it across from Glasgow Street. We've ruled that out simply through the modelling that's come to hand. The bridge is in the best place now where it should be in future. But my recommendation would be we knock the old bridge down if we do it. That cost is subsidised by NZTA to remove it and to build a new one, and then we don't have the burden in future. But look, the community may have their own say on that.
Okay, but we're a long way away from having that discussion.
Well,
Probably.
we need to have it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Brent. Interesting to hear that you said you've done some modelling about where the bridge might go. So the design options, would that conversation start well before what we've got in the plan at the moment, or when will the design options start to be talked about? Because the community have a big interest in that.
Yeah, the community will have a big interest in that, and mainly around, I guess, the aesthetics of that. The bridge itself will depend on a number of things, such as where it's sitting, which is over across the Awa.
Yeah.
So that sensitive river effectively we have a situation where you have to think about the number of spans, the number of piers that have to be in the river itself, how that affects tidal flows and future emergency events coming down that river. But certainly the aesthetics of how the bridge will look in the long run, I'd be more than happy to have the community have an input into that.
Yes, and the other key issue is the entry and exits from the bridge, which is the real problem now for the locals. What are the design options for that? You know, you've got underpasses, various options. And Julian Rewity in his day did a design which pulled the roundabout back into the Corn Market Reserve and utilising that. So I don't hear that conversation happening. Have you done work, or are you envisaging work in that area?
Only at a very high level at this stage, Rob, but yes, Corn Market Reserve is a key part of that.
Yeah.
Yep. Look, essentially what would happen is a new bridge would be built alongside the old one
Yeah.
on the Corn Market side, and the planning detail would come out in the design process. We're working at a high level now to get the business case to a point where it can be approved in funding for NZTA for 2030 funding block.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to the recommendation. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Charlotte, seconded Councillor Charlie. And over to comments, and I'll open with mine. Thank you very much for a really comprehensive report. It sounds like Waka Kotahi have got their work cut out for them as well, but it's so disappointing that they do not hear that local governments set their budgets at a certain time and then they come back and fund us down the track, and it's such a ridiculous, ineffective way to do things. So I don't know how you guys manage that so well, because it is ridiculous. And the other thing is forestry. It's a problem around the country, and it is so destructive. I mean, okay, we need our forestry, perhaps, but gosh, the impact on our roads and our budgets is extraordinary. So thank you very much for the report. No further... Oh, yes. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Helen.
Thank you. Great report, thank you. It's always an interesting area. And a major part of council's budget, and it affects every citizen every day. I just wanted to have a shout out for the new cycleway, it's a dual walkway, cycleway between the Dublin Street Bridge and Pierce Street. It's along Som Parade, and you actually dip down and it's right on the riverbank, and it's just wonderful. And we've got some fantastic cycleways and walkways, dual ones, that have come our way over the last probably 10 years, and it's really made a huge difference to Wanganui, and I think the council team have done a sterling job in facilitating all of those, and I'm looking forward to a future report where we just have an overview of all the currently catch up with where have we actually got all the cycleways, dual carriageways and walkways, and where we perhaps got gaps that we need to plan for the future. That's the key bit of work that came out of the LTP, really, with the Rapanui Road cycleway proposal. So thanks, Brent. Lovely to see you again. And thanks to your team, and you do a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and good luck, Mark. I will now put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. See you again in another couple of months. Next item, financial commitments. I invite Claire Lilly to present.
It's always very nice and quick. Yep, so just reporting the financial commitments from between May and July. Obviously taken as read, and it's all fairly self-explanatory there.
Yes.
So I'm aiming for no questions. Happy with that. So if anyone has anything.
There don't appear to be any questions. Thank you, Claire.
Perfect.
I will ask for a mover and a seconder.
Oh. I just wanted to ask you a question about
If you turn your light on after too late, then I don't see it. Okay, so I suggest that people put their lights on a little bit quicker. Otherwise, I'll move on. So over to you, Councillor Rob.
The first item on the report there with the Talbot Street stormwater outfalls had a awarded price of $352,000, and the approved budget was $600,000. That's quite a major difference. Why was that? How did that occur?
I'm not party to where the approved budget or the estimated value of the contract came, so the officers involved would probably be better to answer that. They negotiated obviously that price, but I'm not sure where the original estimate came from or where the savings have been made, you know.
So perhaps I could ask a question of, and Mike might be able to answer it, but how does it affect the ratepayer when the annual plan or the long-term plan has a budget of $600,000 and the cost comes in nearly 40% less?
Through the chair, I think we need to answer that question in the context of all of our procurement.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go out to procure, we have budget up to $100 million. There will be unders and overs. So as we bring these reports to you, there'll be some that will be under the estimate and be some that will be over the estimate. But as we bring our quarterly and 12-month results to you, I think you'll find over the last few years we've been there or thereabouts as far as the budget goes. So if we so that's the global picture. If we were to have a result which is significantly under budget, then it would mean that the rates we have collected for work we haven't done would be used to reduce our loan balance.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ross.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for your report. Page 54, community property and places, Pukinamu, Queen's Park. The awarded tender $1.4 million for the landscaping. I'm getting different answers from officers when I query this, and I just need some clarification. It's just a simple one for my own education. I know what soft and hard landscaping means for the front of the Sargent Gallery, but I can't get an answer about whether it's purely the front, the left, the right, and the rear. Is it all the way around the physical building, or is it purely the front as you line of sight see it?
Councillor Ross, that's out of the scope of this particular meeting, but we will take that as an action and we'll get an answer for you.
Yes, that would be appreciated.
More than welcome. Okie doke, or may I have a mover? Oh, sorry.
That's right. I did have it there for a while. I wasn't too last minute, but I
Sorry.
was actually a follow-on to Councillor Rob's question, which I thought
Okay.
was
Over to you,
a
Mayor
good
Andrew.
one. And that is, I'm just done some rough numbers here. It's about $500,000-600,000 worth of savings over that period of May to July. and it would actually be good to understand an aggregate of how much we're saving on an annual plan basis, if that's possible. I'm probably looking at you there, Mike. The reason I say that is it would be good to just see how, we need to talk our efficiency story, and I think we're doing some great stuff in our with efficiencies and cost savings, and all of those numbers there on page 54 are less than the water price is less than the approved budget. So I know there are ups and downs, but it'd be good to see an aggregate over the annual plan time period. That's just a comment, really. Yeah.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Michael moves, seconded by Councillor Glenda. Any comments? Nope. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. And now that you're still in the hot seat there, Mike, over to you around renewals of the Standard & Poor's credit rating.
Thank you. This report is just to highlight the update or the renewal we've had of our credit rating. You'll be aware it's maintained a AA credit rating for long term. That is a good news story in today's difficult fiscal environment. What I would encourage anybody is to read the reports if you haven't already done that, particularly the report which is Standard & Poor's rating of New Zealand councils. It gives a very good context of councils, not only what's happening in New Zealand, but councils in the context of our international peers. So while it's a really good news for story, the tone of the report is a little bit hawkish, for want of a better term, because it brings the reality of the environment we're in. So happy to take questions.
Councillor Michael.
Can you just dumb it down on why this is a good thing? So we've retained our standard credit rating.
From a purely fiscal perspective, it means as we go out to the market to borrow money, that we can get the higher the credit rating, the better interest rate we can achieve. From that fiscal perspective, from another perspective is around the public confidence. This is another set of external eyes on our finances and how we manage our finances and that sort of stuff. And having this credit rating should give the public confidence in the way we are managing the finances, which is across all, not just the finance team, I mean across the whole council staff, the way they're managing the work programs and so on.
Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Just to follow on, but as you commented and reading kind of the report, basically there is a weakening settling in the New Zealand local government sector, and so that it's indicating to us that our rating could be moved to a A-1 if I'm reading that, the whole sector, and if that affects us, it's going to affect the interest rates we can lend at, and I guess the question would be, although we hear interest rates are moving, in the wider context in New Zealand are starting to go down, at this stage, can you give any indication that there might be the impact on our long-term plan, I guess, of if we were to be, because the whole local government sector, as such, will affect us surely.
Yeah, look, a downgrade from one notch is not a massive impact on interest rates. It's about 5 basis points for each notch you go up or down. The outlook downgrade was just recognising the sector as a whole, the increased debt across the sector, increased demand on rates, but also recognising that compared to our peers, New Zealand councils are actually rated very high. In fact, we're rated higher than many sovereign countries. And so it's bringing it perhaps into context a little bit of where we sit. I think for your other question, it's a really good question. I would suggest that as I bring my Treasury update to the next council meeting, I'll give you a bit of a Treasury update there, what's happening with interest rates and how we're moving, how we're implementing the strategy that we have talked about for some time because of the market's pricing of current interest rates. But that will be the next committee meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Philippa. Do we have any comments? Councillor Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'd like to congratulate the council on keeping this rating. And the reason why it's really important to me is exactly what Mike just pointed out. Financially, I know 5 basis points isn't a lot of money from an overall point of view, but that's on $200 million debt cap. That's about $100,000. Yeah, it's $100,000. So you think we debate for months about cutting $100,000 of services by keeping our finances in a good shape, by ensuring Mike's team is supported, we save $100,000. Dropping those down even further, you can see why Wanganui has a greater competitive advantage than other councils, and why things like Three Waters and other projects that the other councils need to combine on, we don't need to, because we actually have the fiscal responsibility and heritage to keep a good credit rating, which allows that. And I want to also congratulate Mike's comments on how the community can look at this. It is a third party who is auditing us. And a lot of people may have different views on the credibility of these, but I think relativity is good here. When you look at us compared to other councils, it means we're in good shape. I'll quote the mayor yesterday on social media promoting this, and it is something we should be promoting because it means that our officers have done a good job and councillors have not been too crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew.
Yeah, I think sometimes people gloss over the Standard & Poor's, not really fully understanding what this is about. But this is a great news story, and we should be shouting from the rooftops, which is why I have raised it in social media and other avenues. We, as a council, relative to other councils in New Zealand, are doing really well. Our debt is manageable. We've got strong liquidity. We have been responsible in our governance, and that goes back to this previous triennium as well. So I just want to reiterate that we are in good shape in Wanganui. And I talk to other mayors and other elected members around the country. They're envious of our position. And I was in the call with Standard & Poor's when we did the audit and talked to them, and they were impressed. So you've seen the written part here, but when I spoke to them, they were impressed by where Wanganui is at. Obviously, local government sector is going through its own challenges, and I think we've been pulled down a little bit by that, and we're part of a wider system, but we're standing strong in the middle of that system. So there's, I think we should be, hopefully the media are getting hold of this and telling the story and digging into this a little bit to tell our community that Wanganui is in good shape. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Helen.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for the report, and thanks to officers who support this council and our whole community through really good fiscal reporting and advice. I find the Standard & Poor's, S&P's Global report really interesting, and if our citizens are so inclined, have a read of it. It's not too onerous, but it's got some really interesting stats in them. And one of them, for example, is that New Zealand councils receive a lower proportion of transfers from central government than peers around the world. For example, the government devolves their tax take down to New Zealand local government of only 10%, as opposed to Australian state governments get 19%. And that's something that we around this table are fully aware, that the government tax take has increased 30% of a total of GDP over the last 100 years, whereas councils have stayed static. And so that's really good to see those stats in here. The other one is that since 2013, New Zealand's population growth has pretty much outpaced all of our neighbours, such as Australia and Canada, our peers. And it's that growth that has put such huge pressure on infrastructure and housing, of course. And that's important because the need to build infrastructure means we've got to raise more debt. And the higher the population keeps increasing, it's wonderful places like Wanganui, but it puts huge pressure on the need to provide infrastructure and therefore raise debt, and therefore necessarily could affect credit ratings if we cannot sustain good proportions. So I just wanted to highlight really good stats in here, and a caution that as we move through the next couple of years, has hopefully the inflation rate comes down, but we still have some major building projects underway. This council really needs to be sober about its spending regime and what new projects they might take on. You've got to tighten your belt, spend where you have to spend, but it's just a sobering time that I'm sure we're all aware of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And final comment from me. We do, as a council, garner a fair bit of criticism from our community around the way things are managed, but it's when we get these third-party reports like this that sends that strong message that we're actually doing extremely good compared to our peers. It also highlights, I mean, the report, I got it some time ago, and it is a good read, and it does give context, and it does show that councils are not funded well enough from Central. I know that's a bit outside the report, but it does highlight it. We are underfunded. We are relying too heavily on our ratepayers, and we actually don't have any choice. But within that environment, we're actually conducting ourselves extremely well. And it's very difficult for our community to actually understand that and feel that sense of security for what we're doing. So I think that's just an unfortunate part of the environment that we're in at the moment. So on that note, I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. A break. This one, I'm just going to, because Jason's been here for some considerable time, I'm going to call him to the table. 6.6, regulatory and compliance activity status report. Over to you, Jason. Then we will go to a break.
Good morning. Morning. Before you've got the regulatory and compliance activity report, status report for quarter 4 for last financial year, 1st of April to the 30th of June. So that covers, as you can tell in the report, covers groups like resource consent planning, building consents, animal management, parking, environmental health and alcohol. Sort of some high-level highlights for that period of time. Financials, so for all those groups combined, we around 241k extra revenue for that period, and about 176 less expenses come in, so that's always a good thing. Keep the boss happy. We had a rush of subdivision applications prior to the 1st of July, with the DC, District Development Contribution Policy, about to come in. 52 subdivision applications in that 3-month period, as opposed to 30 for the same period last year. So it's quite a jump, ranging from, well, you name it, ranging from a little one section chopped off infill to some decent sized greenfield developments. Known animals, as far as dogs, has increased about 3%. So that's goes down to the work of the guys and girls chasing dog owners and getting them in the system. And really big jump in calls for animal-related service in that last quarter. I think it is 39% up. Parking. So parking, 14 new parking meters went live on Monday just been as part of the long-term plan decisions. It's only been 3 or 4 days, but the staff have noticed a really quick change in where people are parking, which is good, and it's a reflection of foot traffic on the Ave is still happening. I know it's only early days, but they have noticed a little drop-off in congestion at those busy periods, which is what we're aiming for. Hopefully that continues. And at the end of the financial year, just prelim figures, parking revenue was up about $250,000 roughly on what was budgeted for last financial year, which is good news. And building are doing really well. They're sitting on about 98% of their building consent applications are processed within the statutory timeframes, which is good news. I think I've tried to cover off everything really fast, but because I know everyone's dying to have a cup of tea, but I'll happy to take any questions.
Questions are more important than the cup of tea. Jason? Councillor Rob.
Thank you, Jason. You made a brief mention of less congestion with the parking. Can you tell me, have you been putting together data that's measuring the occupancy, or is that something that's got to come at another time?
I can get occupancy data. We can run reports, but so we can run a report for a fixed period of time. Say, for example, 1st of July, say, for argument's sake, we can do it for a month, 2 months, whatever you need. It's not a problem. We can get that.
So,
but that's based on parking, people that are paying for their parking.
Yeah.
So, you see, so we can get a pretty good
so
idea.
It doesn't count your the seniors parking and those sorts of things, which don't put any money in the meter.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So is there any data that you've put together on parking availability? Because that's the key thing at peak times.
There are 1,176 parking spaces in the CBD. We've got that available. We've got over 1,000 parks at any one time for people to park in. So without, so we cannot pull out if we've got, say, 400 cars there and we've got 700 left behind. We can't pull that, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Glenda.
Thank you. Thanks for the report, Jason. And with regard to the consent planning, there's obviously some potential delays there and in staffing. Is that due to the upsurge in the subdivision consents? Or
not solely.
No.
It's staffing, and it is and the amount of work coming in is far exceeding capacity what they can handle. So we're having to outsource some of it.
Right, and that's why
That
you
does
are
sound
92% complete then, because you've outsourced it. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jason, for your report. It's in the report, and you mentioned that in the quarter 3 to quarter 4, dog reporting matters have gone up 39%. How's the staff coping with that jump?
Yeah, they're busy. They are very busy. So we've had the last probably 2 years, we've had a slow drop off in calls for service, and then last quarter was a big jump up, which I don't really know. We don't really know why at this stage. We know what the jobs are,
yes,
but don't know why. So we'll see how things sort of happen in the next months to see if it does track back down again. Not sure why it's done that.
Okay, thank you. And I suspect this might be an action, Chair. In regard to parking, I'm interested in the number of weekly permits available. I think it's now gone from $20 to $30. There's some social media about there aren't any left, And my query would be is how many, where are they, and will there be any discussions, if I'm correct that most have been taken up, if you can confirm, are there any discussions as to whether there might be more provided for our workers in the city?
We have 200 rental car parks.
200?
200 in town. Prior to the long-term plan changes, we were sitting at 91% occupancy. People chose to give them up because they knew the prices were going to go up, and that dropped down. So dropped down to around 80% occupancy. So what's that? That's around about 40 available across town. And that is slowly creeping back up again. But there are still some available in certain parts. Some car parks have got waiting lists, but they are there if they want them. 100%. They are available.
So a subset of that is that are weekly permit spaces available? Depending on where they are, some people will say, no, it's not close enough to where I work. That's the bottom line.
Correct.
Yep.
Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Couple of things you've highlighted around environmental health, homelessness and alcohol. And I guess, but it's kind of like homelessness, I mean, you talk about it continuing to be a challenge. And alcohol was mentioned a couple of times around working with partner agencies, but just being aware of, coming up into the summer period, more events, etc., more harm. So I guess my question, possibly it's of you, maybe it's of Marianne or something, is around, is a more fuller report, I guess, on those issues, or can you remind us, I mean, these issues are, I gather are being well discussed at Safe for Wanganui, which, if I'm right, I understand we're still resourcing Safe for Wanganui. And I asked a question, we had a bit of a discussion around alcohol at strategy and policy last week, but could we just get some assurance that we just get to see the bigger picture there a little bit and where that might come?
Yeah, we can. Alcohol, the reference in there to alcohol is this time of year we start seeing applications come in for the summer months for special licenses events, which is normal stuff. But the emphasis for us now, or has been, and it always will be, is working with the likes of health and police and any other group to minimise alcohol harm. So yes, on one hand we will consider and licence will be given, but at the same time we'll be monitoring them to see what opportunities there are. If there are, for example, last weekend there were joint operations with council staff and police with alcohol licensed premises. Yep. So that's all part of it. That's really the highlight, is that proactive work to keep it as safe as possible.
Yeah, I guess it's thank you, but I think it's more around just the work going around our local alcohol policy, and I think we're doing a big piece of work to fully review all that. I think there's good proactive work going on and a lot, but yeah, just getting some reassurance that we're going to see that Safe Wanganui is a limited group as such. I mean, we could all go along, but it's a wider agency group. But just how we get to see that at one of our key meetings.
We can take that as an action and put that to the side because it is not part of this meeting. Yeah, so we can let you know.
But housing and homelessness, yeah. We're hearing it's a challenge, but that's it. It was our biggest issue that had us council coming into this Tranium. It's still a major issue.
Thank you, Philippa. I understand that, but it's not part of this item.
Well, it's in the item. It's saying it's a challenge, but I'm not allowed to ask a question about it. I mean, I guess where do we ask a question about it? And when are we going to get a more, it doesn't have to be a big report, but where are we going to see the context properly?
So there will be a little bit more forthcoming. There is some things underway with regards to the homeless side of the conversation. The housing side, I believe, comes through strategy and policy through Lauren's community team, and they do their regular status update, so that would be the opportunity to ask about that in those meetings. This is more from the compliance side, so as things come up, we absolutely will report through the same method, but I think the housing side will come through strategy and policy.
Or it'll come through this meeting, but it'll come through a different reporting line.
Could I just ask on vaping, where are we going to get to see, we're hearing a whole lot more about the issues around vaping, and we've got people in our communities and some really kind of trying to raise, you know, the issue of what can council do about the rise, you know, particularly in very young people, of vaping and the availability, etc. Is this hitting our?
Probably, I'm not 100% across this, but I've a pretty good guess that it's probably a health, central government health type issue. Pretty sure it's not on my table.
No, I'm not trying to put it on your table, but it absolutely. It's sitting within health, but actually it's sitting in our community.
Can I suggest that comes through strategy and policy? It is an area that I am currently doing a little bit of work in, and I will talk to the chairs about it coming through.
It certainly is a big issue, so we don't want to minimise it, but it needs to come through a different avenue.
Great. Look forward to seeing it. It's councils that can help and we can have a key role across vaping, smoking, alcohol and other substances, and we just can't leave it with central government. Thank you.
I totally agree, and we need to hear from strategy and policy what that might look like. Thank you very much, Jason. I will call for a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Pate, seconded by, didn't see anyone. Charlie, thank you. Councillor Charlie. Comments? None. Thank you. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very, very much. Good report. And we're now going to break for 10 minutes. Apologies to those waiting. We're online and getting underway. Next item, climate change. Carolyn Arrowsmith, welcome.
Morena koutou. So this report is an update on the climate change work program. Some of the key things to note. We're close to being able to share the results from our climate change risk assessment and also the audit report from the Office of the Auditor General on our climate change work. We'll share these when they're complete and available. We've begun work on our most recent organisational carbon footprint, and once that's complete in a few months, we're going to begin the development of a formal emissions reduction plan for council organisational emissions. As elected members, you'll be involved in this process through setting the level of ambition for emissions reduction targets. So we'll keep you up to date and invite you to workshops as needed. This isn't included in the report, but just to let you know, I'm coordinating our submission for central government's second emissions reduction plan, which is due on the 21st of August. I'm aiming to get a draft report to send through to you next week, so look out for that in your email inboxes. So the Community Climate Action Fund is going ahead this year with $50,000 available for community climate action projects. Applications will open in September, that's the plan, with the exact date to be confirmed. There's a high-level review of the fund attached to the report, and I do want to highlight that this is essentially an overview looking at what the fund has achieved. A deeper review would also look at the criteria of the fund and speak with community members, applicants and hapu, and have more analysis of what our community wants and needs from the fund. The fund will be included in the broader review of council funding, and you'll get to discuss the fund and make a decision then about its future. I'm not going to present the slideshow that's attached, which will be a relief because it's very long. I included these as background reading for you, but a couple of highlights that I wanted to share. We had a diverse range of projects and applicants over both years of the fund. In terms of location, there was an almost even mix of urban and rural projects and a good range of different types of projects. The most common focus was on planting and ecosystem restoration, and the next was education. This diversity of funded projects has been a key strength of the fund. Projects have addressed multiple aspects of climate change and have delivered on all 5 of the key focus areas of the climate change strategy. There's also been a really strong community engagement through the fund, with very conservative estimate of 5,930 volunteers hours contributed in the first year alone. The fund's helping to raise awareness of climate change issues and encourages collective action and social cohesion around a difficult topic. And other than that, I will answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Carolyn. Councillor Josh.
Thanks, Caroline. Just a quick one from me around the climate change risk assessment. Thanks for the information that you included in the agenda, but I just wanted to clarify as to whether the final report would include a list of recommendations to sit alongside each vulnerability identified.
So it will include some high-level recommendations, but the purpose of the risk assessment is to bring everything to the light, and then they will be shared with different teams across council so that they're aware for their own areas what are the risks, and then the experts in those areas will help to come up with solutions and help to prioritise budgets. That's the whole goal of the risk assessment.
Sure, no, that's great, thank you.
Great report, otherwise there would be a lot more questions. Thank you. So we move to the recommendation, and Councillor Charlotte will move. I will second. Comments? No comments. Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very, very much. We now move to 7.83 Waters. Welcome, gentlemen. Who's presenting today? Tony. Tony, Quitso and Dave, all at the table. You will need to speak into the mic though when you wish to take over.
Thank you, Chair.
I think I'll probably do most of the talking unless there's any questions related specifically for the other activities. Yeah, so there's a few things in here. I think start off with the accelerated procurement process. I think that actually came to the table a little while ago. We put it in here again because we're quite proud of how that's come together and how it's worked out. It's streamlined the way we get our projects out there and allowed us to, in previous years, we'd be running short on time trying to get projects out. But yeah, doing it this way, we managed to get all the projects out, and we were actually pushing ourselves to make sure designs were done and everything was in order early, so that the projects could get out early. So yeah, just some quick numbers for last year. So there were 16 projects initially in that contract 2045. It was released to the market in July 2023. Shortlisted contractors were informed in September, and ended up being 11 projects were available for the last financial year. And yeah, 8 projects have been completed and 3 are still nearing completion. So there's just a couple just finishing off. So this year we don't have as many projects available this year, but we're still going through the same process. And putting them out as a package and then evaluating it from there. We've already met with the contractors who were involved last year in the projects, so we've had a little get together. And it's also worth noting, I guess, after the projects were completed last year, we met with them to get feedback on the process. And there was some improvements, there was some learnings. It was a new way to do it, but yeah, we've kind of amalgamated that into what we're doing this year. Drinking water sampling, so everyone's heard about Taumata Arawai many times. The Water Services Regulator and the stringent rules that we've got now in daily and weekly drinking water sampling. So it's quite a challenge for the resources that we've got. So it's been decided that we're going to tender this work out in order to allow us to maintain our commitment to providing a safe and reliable water supply. Yeah, we'll go through a procurement process and make sure when that goes out we're looking at someone who's got the sufficient resources and skills and expertise to do that sampling for us, and that'll be closely managed by us because yeah, ultimately we're carrying the can and have to pay the price for anything that goes wrong in that area. But yeah, obviously the focus is on providing that safe and reliable water supply. There's a RAG status there for some of our key activities, which I won't go into too much detail. And there's some projects. So yeah, as I said, we've completed quite a few over the year, but we've just got some of the more recent ones in here. So there's quite some substantial works completed. So Raupo Street, Prairie Street stormwater upgrade was a big one for us. 583 metres of new stormwater pipe in an area that was previously unseparated. Nixon Street, so there's 2 projects there, and there's still one further stage to go. So stage 1 was started in 2022, and they're just tidying up a few loose ends there. So that was the micro tunnelling and the very deep section. And then this year, loaders have done stage 2, which was from Moana Street up to Rain Street, and they're just at that final intersection at the Rain Street intersection, finishing off there. The Easttown Road one, we've had problems with that pipeline for quite some time. We haven't actually been able to get a camera through it, but we've been monitoring it over the years, and obviously the waste is still getting through, but we managed to get that tendered out this year and that job done. There's very strict time frames around that one because we had to go under the railway lines. The crew there the crews had to work on Matariki weekend, We had Kiwi Rail on site replacing some of their equipment as well at the same time. Yeah, so we only had a short window to do the piece under the railway line itself. Some good photos there of the night work. And then Karamu Street, upgrading a 150 pipe to a 225, and that's I guess a downstream effect of the development at Fitzherbert Avenue. So that one as well is nearing completion. They're just doing the last few connections. And then the Carson Street one, so some enabling works for a future development going on there. So the enabling works have been completed. I'm not exactly sure on when part 2 is going to take place, but that will be coming up soon, no doubt. And then the next 2 items are a bit more detail on what we talked about on the first page regarding the procurement process and the projects that are going to be going out this year. Probably another important note from the water side. So land acquisition for UV installation, so it's a requirement which I think has been mentioned many times before for us to install UV. So there's land acquisition required to install that because there's a footprint involved. So that is being progressed on the different sites that it's going to be required. And then the final piece is just a graph we'll put in there showing some of the health and safety and traffic management audits that we do. We are constantly trying to get those numbers up, but it just shows you that we are trying to get out there, audit the works that are going on, making sure they're complying both from a health and safety and a traffic management perspective, in addition to through the contract, we're monitoring quality. So that's a quick summary of that report, and happy to field any questions.
Thank you, Tony. I do have a question, and it's around the Taumata Arawai, standards, I guess, and the need to do daily and weekly sampling. From your perspective, and probably days, because it's your area, do you believe that this is excessive for water safety?
Through the chair. Yeah, look, I mean, I think every council are struggling in terms of resourcing for sampling within New Zealand. I mean, it's a step up, definitely a step up. For us, I think if you look at what we do now currently, and this is historic, is that we use other departments within council to do our sampling. And that's not their sole job. This is something that is added on to their work. So we've had to take some of that back, but it's still a struggle for them as well. If you ask me, is it the making us safer water? We're getting more data. We can react to things that happen in the retic, because if something happens in the retic, we only know if there's a sample that's gone non-compliant. So yes, it's protecting our supply. It's giving us the information quickly, so we can react to some of those potentially non-compliance. It is heavily loaded, and that's why we're sort of going out to contract with the sampling contract, is that our normal guys are not doing their normal work in the operations space. So there's a cost to that. We have to engage contractors because they can't do it. We've kept a part of the sampling process because that gives us visibility in the reticulation, so we actually know, potentially there is a problem, because it doesn't happen straight away either. It's there are indicators that potentially we look for, and then go from there. So, I think it's a good thing, and but just takes a bit of resourcing.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you very much, Councillor Pete.
Oh, thank you, through the chair. Can you please elaborate a little bit more on stormwater? And it says in here a number of smaller catchment groups are starting to emerge. Can you just elaborate on those, please?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, there's a lot more. I tend to see a lot more awareness by different catchment inhabitants, so landowners, of the impact, but also the need for other people in the catchment to come together and understand the common issues, because the behaviour of different landowners in the catchment ultimately has an impact on the performance of the stormwater drainage, but not only that, also the ecological and the other outcomes. So specifically in Putiki, there's quite a call it the revival, or just a groundswell movement. That's maybe the better way to put it. But not only in the Putiki at the lower end, also from the landowners further up, starting to reach out and ask questions, and then making those connections to people downstream, and then the impacts upstream, how that and vice versa. That's just one example. I see a few others, the Awarua stream, and then in the Karamu, Churton Creek, the Heads Road area, and that's good. It's a good thing. It's a very much a grassroots awareness and a desire to work together and take ownership of the issues, and progress with agencies, partner with agencies to work on responses.
So council is actively trying to progress.
Yeah, we have been for some years. We've had an integrated catchment management approach for a number of years, trying to also bring across the message that it's not just one agency come and fix all problems in the catchment. It's very much the catchment has to come together, and the various agencies all have a role to play. DOC do certain things, and some catchments, Horizons do certain things, or may have to look over certain things, and then Wangani District Council, and then there are others. There's sometimes Waka Kotahi. I do want to actually mention the Awa Tupua Act. I think that's made a real interesting difference in the framework that compels the agencies to come alongside and actually play their role, and alongside with the iwi and hapu at place. That's made a huge difference, and I think because the tributaries are recognised as part of the river, and under the Act, and of course the river is from the mountain to sea, which means from the highest end of any catchment, not just the main stem, not just the Maunga Ruapehu. It could be the foothills just outside of Putiki. That's the mountain to the sea. Suddenly people are just more connected, and it's the full kawa of the Act compels us all to get around the table. Yeah. It's great.
So sorry about carrying on. So is the Wanganui District Council the lead instigator, or is it just a part player?
It depends where the issues have originated from. Sometimes if we've been looked at to solve an issue, we lead if it is our issue, but sometimes we lead in saying it's not our issue, but let's talk to some of the other people and the other agencies and bring them to the table. So I don't know if you call that leading it. It's kind of co-leading. We're all working together, really. It's not, it's case specific, and I do extend the invitation to anyone who's interested in these catchments. Come and talk to us, and come and listen to some of the kōrero, or the dialogue on the ground, because they're different in each location, but there are often common issues as well that can come back to council tables, but also that may have to go back to other governance bodies tables like Horizons and like Waka Kotahi or NZTA and other Crown agencies.
Thank you for that, and you will be hearing from me.
Welcome.
Mayor Andrew.
This is probably a general question, but specific to the Carson Street extension, but it's a general question around that. It's an enabling piece of work, so can I assume that that's around a future development or increasing capacity?
Yeah, maybe we can next time we can bring a bit more information on that. It's a great project, and so I've had an overview of that. So it's funded predominantly by the Infrastructure Acceleration Fund, the IAF. So it's central government funding. Wangani District Council has put a portion forward from its general growth investment budget to partner up, and then there are other considerations, land and things, And then the Hapu Group, so it's Tupo Investments Limited, they've got funding for Papakainga housing, and it's a very unique development plan for the housing. Water sensitive design, intergenerational type housing, enabling other landowners around the area to also develop in the future. And it's all stuff that is already zoned, like it's in the current zone. It's just that the infrastructure hasn't been up to the standard or capacity to deliver the service. So the works that we've completed, there's 2 stages. The first stage is just to upgrade the wastewater, water and stormwater services up Carson Street, and that unlocks a few parcels of land for intensification and development. That work has been completed by June. Now there's going to be houses or housing constructed, and then the Carson Street, the road on Carson Street will be completely rebuilt and renewed following that, which it's also funded by the IAF funding. But it's a partnered project. When I say partnered, between Hapu Iwi, so Tupoho, Kainga Ora, ourselves, and then the other landowners there that will eventually be able to connect and intensify the development and provide housing.
I think that's actually a development that would be well worth bringing to council in some form, whether it's in a workshop or whatever, just so that councillors are aware of the size, because it's not a small development, the size and the benefit of what this is going to be. So I strongly suggest that we tag that one for everyone to come up to speed on it.
I was about to mention that, which my follow-up question to that, given I thought it might be a development covered under a development contribution of some kind, but you say it's funded by the infrastructure fund. So I'm it'd be actually just to your point, I know I'm commenting here, but to look at an infrastructure, to how we fund enabling works. Some of it might be development contribution, some of it might be infrastructure funding, some of it might be council, etc. So it'd be good to understand.
Yeah, sorry, I omitted that detail. There is a developer contribution and a developer agreement in place between Whanganui District Council and Tupo Investments Limited, and it recognises the contribution as well. So it's like a mixed joint venture. And sorry, the enabling works, because it's growth, can also be and will also be under the development contribution policy for the infill, because that's infill development, recovered over time. So this was just to make the works happen. When I say funding, to deliver the cost or deliver the projects, it then gets the funding then gets clawed back to developers by the new development contribution policy as well.
Councillor Rob.
Thank you. Yes, Chris, so the Kokahuia wetland, there's been a lot of design work and quite a lot of money spent on that so far, with land work for Craig Pocock and people. So what's in the plan now for Kokahuia wetland? Is there anything in this LTP to do some work?
Yeah. So there are various components because it is a catchment. It's really the bottom end of the catchment. We start, at the river end. There's the Kokahuia, there's the landfill, but then there's the Titoki area, and there's a lot of development north of it, and then there's of course the Mill Road and industrial area. So there are various projects for all of those, and as the development occur, we have to respond. So the projects that are included in the LTP, I can also next time maybe put a bit more detail in, but just as a brief overview, there's money in for channels upgrades, for wetland expansion, for the Fox to Fitzherbert works that's going to kick off soon. Then there's a southern drainage corridor it's going to go to the Titoki area. There's a lot of co-design work, collaborative design work now happening around the Titoki area, and then there's scope at the moment. There's actually some external funding applications. We've put forward for access to expert funding, which is central government funding that we can tap into to help stretch the budget. So yeah, it's starting to attract other funding streams as well, which is good to see. And it's only just the start. I think there's scope for a lot more other funding to be put around it to enhance it, make it better. But then also that would stretch our budgets to then be allocated to further works elsewhere.
And there's a development going on corner of Pickwick Road there. I think it's a Brethren Church or something. What mitigation measures are in place to stop that exacerbating the problem downstream?
So that's a whole different catchment than the Kukuia and Titoki. So that's Pickwick Road is out of the urban area.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm talking about. I've switched to another one.
Yeah, no, switched to a different one. Okay, so they've been made to be hydrologically neutral, so they have to contain their own rain event on site through soakage and through having attenuation capacity built in on site. It's all within the district plan rules. Okay. So that's the mitigation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the Aramo catchment group you're talking about, what's the issue there? That's the flooding issue in Aramo that's required this Aramo group to come together.
There's a couple of groups there because there's more than one catchment present. So there's a few tributaries coming in at different places. Two of them is not far from the Aramoho Rowing Club. There are a number of issues that we can address there, and we are working with the rowing associations, the Wakaama, the local hapu has been really good to deal with, Ngatangata Tiaki, the river, because a lot of this is on the main stem of the river. So not necessarily our rohe, or even though we would like to do stuff to that area to help the issues, but the main challenges are erosion and erosion control, and then of course sediment deposit during after bigger flood events that you're all aware of in the past, 2015, a few other events. Then there's whitebait spawning and habitat considerations to be done at the same time. So we're actually working on a integrated master plan to integrate all these things together and come up with an investment plan or an improvement plan on making that not just addressing all these issues that I'm talking about, but also enhancing the the rowing waters there, I understand, is some of the most important training waters around the country. So it's an asset that we're just working alongside to help make it as good as we can. The Talbot Street outfall that was discussed before, that outfall was actually on the 1,000-meter mark of the rowing waters, and so as a bit of almost like just a gesture. When we reinstating that, we're actually just putting a couple of bits and pieces down there to mark the 1,000-meter mark and to give a bit of a viewing platform from there at not much additional cost. But that's something that's come out of our engagement with the rowing associations. As they said, look, there's people that want to see and view it and make it more visible. So there's a lot of stuff there.
So you're talking about the river edge. What about inland? Like, I thought there was flooding issues there below the hills there, Patterson Street and Roger Street.
Yeah, there's heaps. There are.
So, are they on your agenda to solve at some stage? Or
if they're on the agenda for later years, the challenges we have in those Patterson Street area is that the road has been built in the stream. So there are sections, so this is what council has done in the past actions, where you have had a stream cross-section, a cross-cut, like a stream bed. Council has gone and actually put pipes and culverted and then built a road over the top and then built houses next to it. So that's a classic recipe for flooding issues to be exacerbated. Not an easy fix. I can't rip up the road and make it bigger. It's not. There aren't any floor levels directly compromised there. The flooding goes through some properties and houses, so as far as floor levels and the level of safety, there's a low risk. But yeah, let's go and have a walk, Councillor Rob, because you'll see literally how out of the hills these streams come together. Suddenly it hits the urban area. It's been culverted, straightened out, and then there's a section that hasn't been culverted, and then it's culverted again, and it's all called Patterson Street. The paper road of Patterson Street is actually the stream. It's the stream, but we've made it into road. We're turning away from those practices, but we still have a legacy of issues from these decisions of the past.
It's a bit like building a whole city on a river flat. It's a habit we humans have. Thank you. Councillor Charlie, I know you've had trouble with your red light. Do you wish to... You can... Yeah, you should.
I don't want to speak to this one.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Saving it up for the next one. Okay. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Ross. Seconded by Councillor Charlie. Comments? Charlotte?
Thank you. Chris, so you just spoke about community and stakeholder engagement with projects. And it's really, really great to hear. And it's this way of thinking and working that actually breaks apart our siloed way of working. So thank you very much for that. And I would love to see that happening more and more throughout all of our departments and council. Yeah, thanks. Well done.
Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, just similarly, I just want to congratulate the team. These are millions of dollars of budget stuff here, and you, yeah, in a short period of time, you've given us a really great overview and some really challenging projects. Yeah, with a relatively small team, from what I understand. So thank you for all that, and thank you for the collaboration with the community. Really, really great work. Thank you.
Councillor Rob.
Yes, thank you. It's good to hear and see this information you're putting here about future work, and it's good to see things like Carson Street. They're all saying when the start dates are and what budgets. But I just want to raise again the issues around Pūtiki, because we know the flooding issues around Pūtiki. It's been going on for 20 years probably. And 10 years ago, Horizons and Wanganui District Council commissioned Opus to do a report and came up with an engineering solution for various things. Horizons had money in their budget for 2024 to do all the design work. And we thought we were making progress. But then we find out that Horizons just dropped all the money out of their 10-year plan. And so it seems to me we're back to square one and the conversation's starting again. And I really hope we can bring something together here, because we have a bad history in this council, and I guess most councils, of spending a lot of money on engineering studies and engineering reports, but never do the work that's involved in those reports. Classic example, the Awarua and the Victoria Road, those sorts of things, the studies in Manington Road that have been, I don't know, the costs must have been huge in these studies, but we never carry them through. So I really hope, Kritso, that some plan can come forward, especially on that Pūtiki, to show what action we're taking and when. Thank you.
Yeah, big thank you to the water team. I think we're well serviced, and I'm sorry, so you aren't able to respond at all to that as much as you might like to. So I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And our next item is the wastewater treatment plant odour management situation. So, over to you again, Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so obviously almost a year to the day that I, excuse me, sat here talking about this previously. So a lot of the information is in here is historical information and what we've done. There may be a couple of things that haven't been brought up previously. The air consultant we had in, it was a good visit, but he, just kind of highlighted every possible source of odour, without regard to the scale or the frequency kind of thing. But it has brought up a few things that we'll put into action. I guess, we've summarised. I'll probably go straight to the end. So the planned actions, we've put together a table of planned actions that we've got, and we'll bring that to this table. However often this committee is formed, and I'd just like to highlight a couple of things. So, since this report was published, we've had a couple of some success on a few things. So been talking quite a bit with Harslev. So they're based in Germany, but they have a guy in Auckland who, he didn't build the thing, but he knows his way around, and he pointed us in a direction, because we said to him about how the odour, specifically from the dryer, is getting worse. Well, it's gotten worse over the last sort of 3 to 4 years. So he pointed us to an area, and we expedited the part of the shutdown that we've mentioned. So we shut down the dryer for a couple of weeks ago, and looked at the foul air, the air circulation system, and we found 2 significant issues. So they've been corrected, and I was quite pleased to report that it's made the environment inside that dry building, I'd estimate, probably 70 to 80% better than it was beforehand. So, there's still some work to do, and it's still not perfect, but it was pleasing to note that, we found some significant issues. And it's unfortunate that, so 2 things, the items weren't on like the maintenance checklist that we've got from the suppliers for this part of the kit. So they've now been added, and we will obviously keep a very close eye on them in future. The other thing is they're very hard to access. So there's a tank inside the building that's 7 metres high, and then there's ducting that comes off the top of that. And there's no ladders, there's no walkways, there's no anything. So the only way for us to get at it was to install scaffolding. So obviously we did that, and we got up there, had a look, realised there was an issue, and dealt with it. So that very pleasing. There's still some work we want to do, which we've itemised here. But the other one I want to bring up, which has occurred since we published this report, so I didn't have the opportunity to add it in here. So the pond cover, because the feeling has always been that the main sources of odour are the dryer and the primary pond. So that's what we've always focused our efforts on. So the pond cover, we had a guy just after I was here talking about this last year. I tracked down a guy from Taranaki, and he came down with a fancy camera, and he could actually see all of the leaks. So he found 17 small holes in the pond cover, which was surprising. But nonetheless, it is what it is. So I've been chasing AEL, the installer of the cover, since that time, and they've actually just contacted me, and they visited site on Tuesday. So they're going to be back down in probably 6 to 7 weeks. So they're in Hamilton, and they're also based in the South Island. So they're going to, I'm just waiting for some pricing, and they'll come back and work on dealing with all of those tears and those faults that we've found. So there's, well, although a lot of the tears are small, I think once they, because the pond itself is in a little bit of a basin, and the gas can build up in there and then collect and then discharge. And I think that's what's happening. So although they are only small defects, they add into something reasonable. And so we're very excited to get that underway as well. And they've got a methodology where they can do it, because we've always wondered how they could do it while the cover sits on water. It makes it difficult to PE weld when there's water directly underneath. So they've got a methodology of dealing with that, which is relatively straightforward, I guess. So yeah, I just wanted to bring up those 2 points, that things that have occurred since this was published. So, and obviously this table here, yeah, we'll work through these items and tick them off as we go, and report them to this table. And this has also been circulated to one of our neighbours out there, yeah, prior to this meeting. So happy to field any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you so much for all the work that is going on to try and remediate this. I mean, you know, council's really taken ownership of the fact that it is what it is, and it needs to be dealt with, and I think you're doing a great job of progressing through that. Questions, Councillor Michael?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The 17 tears, I'm assuming they're not under warranty?
No, so the maintenance period was a year, and we're into year 6 now. So
yeah, so it could have always been a problem, but it could have been workmanship at the start.
yes, but in saying that, it's a moving thing. So the pond builds up gas underneath it, and it has weight pipes on it. And when the wind blows, the thing moves around, and when the level of the pond goes up and down, things move around.
So probably not fully their fault, but
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I think it's probably partially, not fully. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Helen.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you said, but I didn't quite hear it at the end of your talk, that a copy of this report has gone to local, the users down at the
Affected
parties at the airport.
We sent it to the one that we've had the most dialogue with. We've sent it to them. We haven't
the
sent it to
helicopter
everyone
guys.
yet.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's great.
Councillor Charlie.
Yep. Thanks, guys. And thank you for your continued acknowledgement that there is a problem, has been a problem. I can tell you that Midwest Helicopters appreciate it, and it's certainly taken the heat out of their angst, as it were. One concern I've got with the dryer, so we have a budget for this for 26-27 year. That's a long way out. So we can assume then that the smell is going to continue in that time. And it's still a pretty serious health and safety issue, even though the fact that council acknowledges the problem.
Yeah, so there's 2 items there. So yeah, obviously dealing with the dryer at source and the air circulation thing is a biggie. That's a big one for us, and very pleased to find that. The second part of it, so that vent that goes outside, we turned it off for a little bit to see if we could manage without it, but we still can't quite. So there's 2 plans. So we've got I guess a small scale filtration system we can install in that ducting system, which we're going to go ahead with in the next few weeks. And then the worst case scenario is we'd have to purchase a unit that could treat the air, and it's designed to do that. But I'm hopeful that just installing a small scale filtering system in the ducting will mean that next year we won't have to do that. So we are working on it in the meantime. We're not just sitting and waiting till next year for us to have some money to do something.
If that is required in the 26-27 year, what sort of dollars are we looking at to fix this thing?
So to install a purpose-built or an off-the-shelf scrubber, effectively, you're looking at, well, depending on the size, you're looking at $100,000 to $200,000.
And will that work in conjunction with the dryer you've got now?
So it's a separate piece. So it's not attached to the dryer. It's just treating the air that is exhausted out of the building. Yeah. So it's not actually, doesn't have to work
as part of the dryer or in sync with it or anything. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Robb.
Thank you. The dryer was, as you know, wasn't an uncontroversial purchase at the time, and some engineers said you don't need it. But so, have you looked at the situation of do we need to operate that dryer? If the dryer is causing problems, I mean, I know there's a mechanical process for dewatering and the dryer takes it down further, but have you actually considered not operating the dryer? Would there be advantage?
We haven't, but if we did, maybe not so much now, while we've got that pond on site where we're putting the sludge, but definitely in the future we're going to notice, because putting it through the dryer reduces the volume by about 5 to 6 times.
Yeah.
So that extra volume of sludge that we'd have to dispose of in the future once we don't have that pond, whatever that disposal method's going to be, is going to be massive. And the fact that we put it through a dryer and it goes through those heat extremes means that you can do more with it as a finished product as well. When you put it through the decanter and you're just removing some water, you're not actually treating any of the bacteria in there, because they can survive through the dewatering process, but through the drying process you eliminate a lot of the bacteria.
Yeah. So the storage pond, I mean, the dried sludge comes into there, and of course all the water goes back into it because it's out in the rain. And so you sometimes wonder about it. But is there an odour that comes off the storage pond?
There is. So in reference to the dried stuff going into the pond and then it getting wet again. So that the material is actually hydrophobic. So if you have a pile of it, and we've done it, you have a pile of it and you spray it with a hose, it still stays dry. It doesn't absorb the material, the water. Your second question I've just forgotten, sorry.
I've forgotten it as well.
Just make it up, mate.
Sorry, it was the pond smell.
Oh, the smell of the pond.
The smell. So there is an odour that comes off that pond. When we've visited on site, even with when Midwest came and we walked around there, we walked down and around the pond, and it wasn't noticed that was what was being reflected off site. But in the future, we do need to be very careful what we do there and make sure we cover all our bases, because we could be left with something that's less than desirable. So it's a valid question, and maybe not so much now, but in the future definitely, and ongoing, we need to make sure we're keeping an eye on it and making sure we can handle it in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Charlie.
Down the track, when that front pond's full, there's been talk about shipping it to Hamilton and places like that. Is an option of digging another big hole and burying it, like we've got now?
Yes, absolutely there is. I mean, there's many options that can be done with it. Obviously, the ideal solution is to use it as a compost, similar to what New Plymouth do, and sell it at Mitre 10. I mean, that's the gold standard, and that's still what we're aiming for. There's many options.
We've got the chrome issues, haven't we?
We have got the chrome issues, so they're I'm not sure how much I talk about that now, but
so as much as you're comfortable with.
Tasman Tanning are doing an upgrade on their effluent system at the moment, and we're working with them. Not working on what they're doing, but keeping informed as to what they're doing. So they are working on improving those chromium levels so that we can do something with it, but there's still water to go under the bridge, I guess.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to move. Who would like to second? Thank you, Councillor Pate. Comments? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Helen.
Thank you for the report, and thank you for the thorough work you're doing on the air odour management at the airport. It's really great progress you're making, and I'm sure that the users at the airport are very appreciative of it. I visited them a couple of months ago, and you know it's a continuing issue, but they do appreciate that you are working on it, and it's good to see that relationship established. And I want to thank you very much for your efforts there. It's very much appreciated. Cheers.
Yeah, I reiterate that. I think you guys have really taken ownership and doing outstanding work around it. I do suggest that perhaps this becomes a standing item on this committee for a little while, maybe not forever. And it doesn't need to be a long report, just an update from the previous one. What have you done? What's working? What's not? How it's trending. So it might just be a one or two pager, but I think there's a lot of interest in this, and it's also great when you say things like you tried something and you think it's dropped by 80%. You know, those are really good things to have happen. So thank you. I really appreciate all that you've done. I'll put the item. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very, very much. And last item in the public area is the work programme. Not sure who's going to be you. Okay, Maz. Thank you. So over to you.
It's nothing really to overly present. It's just the standard work program. We are yet to confirm the dates of the meetings next year, but we will for the next meeting. Even if we don't have the dates, we will just keep on the flow so you can see what will be coming when.
Yep.
That'll be updated for the next meeting. But
yeah,
that's all there is really.
So just having them indicative is quite helpful, and even at some point, not next time, but the time after, we actually do and the diary should be done. Then we should have a review of the content.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because some of it will fall off a little bit, like the sergeant, obviously, once we're open, that will go into just regular status reports and things like that.
Fantastic. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Helen.
Thank you. On page 120, at the bottom, the heritage strategy outcomes, that did not occur in April, that report.
We're quite clear about that, and we've also given you the pathway as to where that's going to go.
But it's still got a tick here to say that it did occur.
Well, it's historical stuff.
No,
So I hear what you're saying.
Could that be amended to show like a red cross to show it didn't occur? Because this is...
Or it's taken out.
Or it's taken out, or it's put in somewhere else. It's just this, because this is the purpose of this report is so that we remember, oh yes, that has occurred, and also helps us to...
Fair comment.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Would like to move. Councillor Pate, second. Councillor Glenda, comment, none. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And we now have the motion to exclude the public. We'd like to move Councillor Philippa, seconded by Councillor Josh. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.